Ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the April 28th, 2015 Board of Selectmen special meeting. Tonight's a special meeting because we had town meeting last night, so technically we had a meeting last night. So this ends up being like a special meeting. So we're going to have the schedule's going to go a little different than typical. All right, so could I have a roll call, please?
There are 3 selectmen present, Mr. Slavin, Mr. Tropiano, Mrs. Whiteside. I know that Mr. Holmes is on his way.
Okay.
Also present, Derek Sullivan and Richard Bone.
All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to have the hearing with cash for stuff, too.
Those of you who are talking in the back, could you please knock it off?
Okay.
Thank you.
And for the purposes of this hearing, so that all of us can, the selectmen can hear and know what's going on, I'm going to ask Rich to be the hearing officer for this hearing. Is that okay, Rich?
Yes, sir. Take that notice and read it into the record.
Okay. You got the notice?
You have no idea what I have. Is this it?
It's on the front page,
Yeah,
the whole thing.
No, it's in the packet.
Isn't that the notice there?
You got the whole thing, yep.
Notice is right here.
Yeah, she's got it. That's it.
Thank
She has the,
I know, just let you know.
For the record, Mr. Titlebaum has entered the meeting. It's 5:32. I don't know what time it is.
whatever, close enough. 5:30.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Just read into the record. Letter sent by certified mail dated April 15th, 2015, addressed to Charles A. Lewis, DBA Cash for Stuff 2 and/or C&B Emporium, 3245 Cranberry Highway, Buzzards Bay, Mass. Re-notice of disciplinary hearing to Mr. Lewis on Tuesday, July 18th, 2015. The Wareham Board of Selectmen, acting as the licensing authority, will hold a hearing to consider whether you are properly operating your business and complying with the conditions of your license. Attached, please find materials that have been forwarded to us. This information will be discussed at the hearing. You should be prepared to address this material, as well as your manner of operating the business in compliance with license conditions. Selectmen's meeting begins at 5:30 p.m. and held in Wareham High School Cafeteria, 7 Viking Drive, Wareham. It's actually here tonight. Please be advised that Chapter 140, Section 54 allows the Board of Selectmen to revoke your license, quote, at pleasure, unquote, and without a hearing. Therefore, we're providing you with an opportunity to address these matters and expect that you will appear to do so. Sincerely, Patrick G. Tropiano, Chairman. Is Mr. Lewis here? Yes. Mr. Lewis, why don't you come forward?
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. And Mr. Lewis, did you receive the notice and attached materials?
Yes, I did, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Would all those who intend to testify before the board please stand and raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Absolutely.
Thank you. You may be seated. Members of the board, this matter concerns allegations well, to sum it up, untidiness at the licensed establishment in violation of the conditions imposed on the license. Mr. Lewis, do you have any opening remarks that you would like to make?
I will address the board to see what the complaint is, and then I will enter what I feel is right or wrong.
All right.
They invited me here, and I'd like to hear what they say against me.
Well, actually, that's not how it will work.
Okay.
You've received a notice, and you've acknowledged receipt of same with attached reports reciting various inspectional observations regarding the state of cleanliness at your establishment.
Correct.
So you are, in fact, on notice of
Okay.
what the issue regarding the hearing is. And at this time, before I call any of the inspectional officials, this is an opportunity for you to make an opening statement to the board, if
Okay.
you so choose.
Sure. I appreciate that.
And the record will show that Mr. Holmes is here at 5:35.
Okay. My name is Charles Lewis, as we already discussed that. On that particular date, the entire town came in to my location without notice, which their doors are always open 7 days a week, okay? They found fault They came in with their pictures, and they took all their pictures and so on and so on and so on. And I said, okay, and I thank you, gentlemen. However, this is their pictures. I'm sure you people have your pictures in front of you, which was taken the day of. The complaint is trash. There is no trash here. What you see on these particular pictures that you people taken, the entire town, is, quote, a trailer filled up with broken furniture and so forth that we go to the landfill on a weekly diet. We have several hundred receipts from the bond and landfill. Excuse me, I didn't mean to do that. The wood pieces, the pallet goes on the trailer, so it ain't gonna be debris all over the highway. That's factor one. That was taken the day of. And I've been teaching a lot of these other people in this industry where we are paying upwards to $30 per mattress. I do not go out and receive mattresses. However, we receive them when we do cleanouts. On that secondary piece of paper, we remove the bedding. Rather than paying $30 at the landfill, we now pay $2 at the landfill. They turn around and send the spring off to the smelter or whatever, and they put monies into their account. So therefore, it's recycling.
What do you do with the rest of it, please?
This here goes to the landfill. We take off all the covering off the mattresses.
What do you do with the covering, sir?
We take it to the landfill. Rich, here, all my receipts are right here. And I have approximately another 50 at the shop. I don't want to bombard you with that. Now, that's recycling as far as I'm concerned. Everyone's talking green pay, everyone's talking recycling. I'm pitching in myself, okay? And I'm teaching other dealers to do this, which is the people at the landfill said thank you on that matter. Second, here's a picture taken from the town. There's no debris here, none whatsoever. There's the mattress, there's a slide board, there's my lawnmower and so forth that we put back on the trailer after we did go to the landfill that day. In the hallway, yes, I myself put some debris out here, which wound up in the trailer. That's not a proper way to greet somebody walking through the town or any one individual walking in my place of business. That is always kept clean. Where I was at fault, the gentleman here, the fireman, came in and corrected me on a few items, which was the second egress that I have in my building, which all the lights were all replaced, all the batteries were replaced. He corrected me, which I was not aware of. During my working hours, we have to have that door unlocked. Fine, it's been unlocked since he told me about this. And I put a big sign on the door, if anyone who is employed with me, which there is one part-timer, since that department. He found fault, the oil burner downstairs, which we had a lot of rain, as we all know. Some leaked in underneath the oil burner. We assumed that it was oil. He assumed that it was oil, and that the burner had to be updated. The following day, I had the people come in, a team of 4. They put all brand new valves and so forth. We all cleaned up, which we discovered it wasn't oil, it was seepage of water. The other thing, which I was not aware of, I had some stuff up against the windows, which he corrected me. He has to have 4 feet within the window area in the event if the firemen have to come in or go out the windows, which I was not aware of. I immediately corrected that. The yard, the property's been well kept up. Mrs. Byron, she's an elderly, she just come out of the hospital, been in the hospital for 15 days, and I've been picking up the debris. The highway, yes, it creates debris. We are out there constantly picking up debris, which the gentleman here on the right, I take my hat off from the last meeting, what he is trying to do in this town. I happen to live in this town. I came from Falmouth, and I happen to like this town, and I personally moved to this town. If there's any other complaint that I know of, I can correct that. And I'm asking the board not to revoke my license And another thing, I had my secondary store, which I was asked to close it down because there was no license. I had an opportunity to move to the secondary store, which my revenue went way down. Fine, I can survive, okay? I had some debris in the back, which the Board of Health came down and said to me, I'm in violations there, which I picked up. They were back into my doorstep within 2 days, and it was the building department and the building health department said everything is great. And I had to move out, and I moved back to my secondary location. Fortunately, right now, and I feel bad for Mr. Charlie Johnson, who owns that property, I am gonna talk to Mr. Johnson because somebody's been dropping debris there, not I. I left it in clean, good health. And due to respect to Mr. Johnson, who's a wonderful person as far as I'm concerned, I'm gonna go back there. I can't do it within another week or two because I'm under doctor's care because of an accident. I will clean that property up in the back, as well as I left it. The property, since day one, since the last meeting, I was told, I came back here, I asked if I could please put one piece of furniture outside and a bicycle so I can obtain some more of my business. And the Board of Selectmen rejected that. And okay, I live with that. And I gave this gentleman here on the right, oh boy, I thought that was off. I'm sorry, folks. I gave this gentleman my word that there will not be one piece of furniture out there, or bicycle, or anything, display of vehicles, boats, or anything, as this gentleman asked me to do so. And from that moment on, there was not one piece of furniture out there, and I kept my word to that gentleman. And I'm an honest man, and I will continue on doing that. But if you look up and down the avenue, and I'm not throwing stones at anyone else's business. That's their business. How they run their business is their problem. And you people are doing a wonderful job how to figure out what is a junk license and so forth. Definition of it. A gentleman came into my place of business yesterday with the Board of Health, and he says, there's a lot of junk down here. But sir, I mean, what is junk and what is sellable? There is not one piece in that shop that is not resellable. I've been doing this for 42 years. First time I got a complaint like this, okay? Up and down, I don't know what to tell you, but now the last time I heard, somebody said at this meeting, this is gonna open up a can of worms. Who is gonna obtain a license in this town? Who's not gonna get it? And it reflects right back to the Salvation Army and everybody on the strip.
Well, Mr. Lewis, with respect, the town is working on the question of licensing.
Thank you.
And, but the thing that we're concerned about right now are the allegations. So what I'll do at this point is, just for the record, the notice with attachments will be Exhibit A. Mr. Lewis, did you have copies of those landfill receipts, or did you want to provide us copies later if those are your only ones?
I only have more at the office, sir.
Oh, I don't want to take your only ones, if that's all you
These are
have.
the only ones I have, and there's more at the office. I am always at, I'm sorry.
No, it's all right. With the board's permission, what we could do would be to leave the record open. You could submit photocopies of those,
Okay.
drop them by the selectman's office at your convenience, and those will become part
And
of the record.
there was a lot more that was lost. I can go to the town of Bourne and get me a report on all of the certificates. And I'm there faithfully.
Yeah, well, copies of those will be sufficient. And then as Exhibit C, that is the green card, the return of service of the notice, which will also become part of the record.
Okay.
Before I call the
So this is
enforcement
C,
officials,
this is D.
are there questions from the board for Mr. Lewis?
Not yet.
Not yet,
Do
okay.
you guys have any questions?
Not at this time.
Not yet.
Reserve to ask later.
Okay, after we have
All right.
testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, board members. Mr. Lewis, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to call the town inspectional officials. I'll let
Okay.
them make their statements, offer their testimony, and you can stay right there because you'll have an opportunity to question them
Sure.
if you choose to.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Why don't we start with Mr. Moore?
Done?
And then, Mr. Moore, if you could just state your name and your position, and then provide us with your report.
Board, my name is David Moore,
See, this is a
the
different-
interim inspector of buildings, town of Wareham. And I did go out yesterday. I had Mr. Ethier with me. We went through the property in question, and we took some pictures. You have copies of the pictures. I will admit that I did not take pictures of the secondhand retail material, but I took pictures of junk, and there was a lot of it. One of the things that bothered me was there are 2 holes in the roof. I mentioned that in my report, and there was obviously quite a bit of water had come in because there was a mold. What appeared to be a mold situation. I'm not qualified to say that it was mold, what color, what strain, whatever, but it was difficult to breathe. I could taste it, and I've been in places with enough mold to know when there's something there that shouldn't be there. You see the pictures, there was a lot of it. And it didn't look like it was moving too fast, the way it was strewn about in the basement. And just as you go in the door on the right-hand side, there was a small room. You couldn't enter that room. That room was stacked 4 to 5 feet high with cloth materials, looked like sleeping bags, clothing, or whatever. And right above it, there was a leak, and I believe that was where part of the smell was coming from, right there. So it was full of junk. At least 50% of the material in there, I would say, qualifies as junk. Can't be used again in its original intended form by the town's bylaw.
Go ahead, Alan.
Mr. Lewis,
Sure.
your lease, or whatever you have for an arrangement with the property owner, what exactly is it?
Well, I am one of her better clients, I'll say that.
No, I want to know what the actual lease is. No, what are the terms of the
I'm a
lease?
tenant at will.
What are you responsible for as a tenant at will?
I will take and maintain the property as best as I can. I've repaired some stairs for her, whatever, and I addressed her on that. And what happened due with all that rain that we had and the miserable winter that we had, there were 2 places where I relieved the water to let it dry out, and that's where it stands right now. Mrs. Byron just came out of the hospital after being there for 15 days. I addressed her on that. She's supposed to get her carpenter in there and to fix the roof and correct the sheetrock that fell down. I myself will take that task on myself for her.
But
And my back is out right now, and I am.
my question is, are you responsible for the roof and the leaks? Or
No, I am
she
not,
is?
sir. No, I am not at all.
Thank you.
I'm sorry if I misunderstood you. Yes.
Mr. Chairman, through you.
Yes.
A question for Mr. Lewis. When did you first notice the leaks?
Well, it was ongoing. It started small, and
At what time?
I'm going to say 2 months ago, and it started small, and I realized that there's moisture up there, and it could create mold. So therefore, I opened up the ceiling a little bit more, and it started out to 1 hole. Now it's a bigger hole, and I'm still letting it dry out. I will relieve the mold, and I will put new sheetrock up there on my own, so Mrs. Byron can't do it. She's elderly, and she just came out of the hospital, so. Now, as far as anything on that property, everything is in that. It isn't that I have trash put there. I don't operate my business like that. I sell used merchandise, household goods. It can consist of a bureau. It can consist of clothing, anything. I have a junk license to do so. Now, it would be stupid of me to have all kinds of debris that's non-sellable. Every foot in that building, I have to pay so much per month. So everything in that building is resellable. And a lot of people in this town just can't afford to go out and buy a brand-new bureau or a bedroom set in the tune of $500, $600, $800, but yet I can combine a bedroom set for $100, a refrigerator for $75, or a freezer. Or a mother comes to me at a given time and says, "Chucky, I need a bureau for my child and I have no money." My doors are open, as I made that statement here several times in this here meeting. I donate a lot of time to these people in this neighborhood that don't have a lot of money. And I
Mr.
will
Chairman.
stand tall for that.
Go ahead, Steve.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chairman. So I think we can all agree, Mr. Lewis,
Yes, sir.
that the damage identified in the roof is older than the last 15 days when the lady was in the hospital. That damage has been there longer than 15 days.
As I just stated to the board, it's been approximately since then we
Okay.
had that heavy rainfall. I'm gonna say 2, maybe 3 months.
Mr. Moore,
Yeah.
through you again, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Moore, in your professional opinion, as an inspector for many years, how long do you estimate that damage in the roof was? Certainly not 15 days old.
No,
No.
no, I would agree with Mr. Lewis. You're looking at, it's been a couple of months with the mold growth and the sheet rock and the saturation and everything else.
So at least
Been
several
there a
months.
while.
We
Yep.
could agree on several months,
Yes.
because he said that it was smaller, and then he made it bigger.
Bigger.
So
As I
2 or 3 months ago, he made it bigger, and then it was smaller before that.
Not to interrupt you, sir, I spoke to a professional on that, and he said, open it up as much as you can, let it air out, let it dry out, and then take care of mold, if any, and put new sheet rock up there. And that's what I've done so far.
Go ahead.
Just to follow up on that, Mr. Moore, in your opinion, was opening up the roof to attempt to lessen the chance of mold, is that a proper strategy, and is it one you would recommend in
It
the
gets the
absence of?
water out of the insulation. It does dry it out, but unless you repair the roof, the mold is going to continue to grow.
Right.
Doesn't do any good.
Again, I did remove the insulation, some of it, best part of it I could, and I wanted to air out properly, and I can correct that within a week or so, a little over a week. I can repair that and continue on.
Okay, so you guys all set with this? Mr. Bowen, you can...
Mr. Cash, my apologies. Mr. Lewis,
Yes.
do you have any questions for Mr. Moore?
No, he came down and he did his job, and he did it very efficient, and I appreciate it, because if I can correct anything, if I've done something wrong, like this gentleman says, the roof, to my professional opinion, from a professional said, open it up, let it air out. No sense closing it up, because your mold will grow bigger and bigger and bigger throughout. So that's where it's at right now. And I didn't try to hide it or anything, it's there, you know? And I blocked it off so nobody can walk in there and say, oh, what's going on here, you know? But it is what it is.
Thank you, Mr. Moore.
Rich?
I do have
thank you.
one other, I have a question,
ma'am.
sir. You state that you've been in business 42 years, Mr. Lewis.
Mhm.
I'm presuming that during that time, you have had other, not you personally, but the buildings that you may have used have had structural issues or repair issues. Is that a correct statement?
I never owned anything of my own, but
Mhm.
the landlord, if there was an issue with the building department or whoever, there was a complaint, the landlord always corrected it, not me.
Okay.
I never built out a building for any repairs, anything to that nature, no.
Okay, and then, have you had experience in choosing where you want to locate your business?
I came to this town of Wareham in all good, honest faith, and that's where I preside my business. And for the
I
last
guess
3
what
years.
I'm asking you is, you're not a building inspector, you're not a carpenter, you're not a whatever, but
I'm sorry.
the building space and possibly traffic or parking might be something that you would consider. What about the shape
I
of the building?
apologize, I can't shut it off, I'm sorry. Gee. The parking space, there ain't too much out there, that's factor one. We provide, and we do the best we can. We don't have a driving business, no. Is it a small family business? Yeah, I raised 8 kids by doing this.
But I'm,
I'm a carpenter by trade, professional floor layer when I was a young fellow, okay? Do I have the knowledge to repair a roof? Yes. I've worked on my own personal homes for all my life.
okay, I'm guessing I'm about the same age you are, and I've
I hope,
lived,
you're a lot younger than me, and I know that.
I don't
No,
think
she's
so.
not.
But it seems to me that as a business owner or a homeowner on going into rent or lease a property,
Correct.
you would not stick your fingers in the sockets, but you'd certainly make sure that the electricity wasn't knob and tube. That you would certainly look at the roof to make sure that whatever you could see was structurally integrated. That you
Okay, I'm
didn't, that you don't have a floor that has gaping holes or huge amounts of rot, or if you
Right.
were in an old mill building, dripped grease or something like that.
That's all physical. When I took this task on 3 years ago, okay,
In this building?
in this particular building, the roof was sound, secure. It is a metal roof. The whole entire building is metal. And the inside structure is all concrete on the floor. Okay, I am not a electricity person. The wall sockets were fine. The fire department come in, the building department come in, the health department come in, and everybody came in, and they gave me a green light to move into this with an occupancy permit. And that's where it's at. I mean, I'm not an engineer, I don't pretend to be, but I know if a bad socket has to be replaced or a light fixture, sure, I'm capable, sure.
And you're a tenant at will?
I am a tenant at will, yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Tropiano.
Sorry.
Mr. Moore, the building in the condition it's in now, would you issue an occupancy permit at this point?
No, I wouldn't.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Mr. Ethier. And could you just state your name and position for the record, please?
Robert Ethier, I'm the health agent for the town of Wareham, from the Wareham Board of Health. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, town council. I have a couple of files here. I too I can vouch for being there yesterday. Yesterday's inspection was simply to accompany the building commissioner, and he was looking at other things than we looked at. My inspectors were there, the latest that they were there, latest date was 4/19. I think my records indicate that they were there on the 15th and the 19th to correct what issues we found when all the inspectors were there a few weeks ago. And that date was let me just find it for you here. It was March 17th, 2015. That's when I was asked to go out to see what the conditions were, see if it was in violation of any health codes, any codes at all. I asked Mr. Braley from Onset Fire, the building commissioner. I brought 2 inspectors from my department, and we went through the building. We took some photographs at that time on 3/17/15. I think I provided the board with them, but I'd like to give them a copy just to see again. It's attached to the correction letter, which is, I cited them under the state sanitary code, which is minimum standards of fitness for human habitation. And under that code, you can read in the letter, there's a definition of garbage and rubbish that isn't on this particular letter.
It's on, it's in the bold on your letter of the 19th, sir.
Okay. And if you'd like, that describes garbage and rubbish and what the state, under the state minimum standards of fitness for human habitation, describes garbage and rubbish. So if I could approach the board, I'd like to present these photographs to you, and
Is there a copy for Mr. Lewis?
I have, I believe, the same thing here, Bobby?
I believe they are the same.
The
yeah.
same.
Okay.
Now, you and your associates came in and took these pictures. I did not take these pictures, correct?
That's correct. I got to speak through the board and through town
I'm
council.
sorry, sir.
Yeah, you can
But
bring
if
them
I
up
can
on
answer
the-
that question,
If you
Mr.
bring them up, the clerk can check, can sign them in.
Okay,
We'll mark those as
You already got
Exhibit D.
it.
okay.
Make sure that
If we
the
just
ones he sent
take a
in-
minute, that Mr. Ethier and I can compare what I have on the record.
Okay.
If you could bring it
All right.
forward.
Because what you hand us is,
I have some additional photos of follow-up inspections also.
as well.
just proves, members of the board, that he has done some cleanup there.
Could you let Mr. Lewis take a look at those before you give them to the board, please? Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Bobby. Understood. Yep. Yep. Which we did, correct? Yep. And there is a little bit more debris which we're attending to on a daily basis, yes. And there it is, black and white. I thank you, sir.
Mr. Lewis, do you have any objection to those being given to the board?
Absolutely none, sir. Thank you.
No, hang on. Please.
They're paper clips, so they can't get too messed up.
I was just going to suggest if you took the first package in as Exhibit D,
I'm just double checking, sir.
and then,
I already had a set of,
the second group in as Exhibit E,
Right.
we'll have a full record.
We're just checking to make sure that the clerk's packet matches the exhibit. Just review the
Okay,
scales.
give me that.
So these are okay?
No, these are, I need those originals.
Okay. And we're gonna compare these to what?
This.
There's two.
There's nothing, those are new.
No,
The exhibit.
Okay,
we have everything in that packet.
That are of these.
Okay.
Is this.
Good. There are notes already put on here, so I don't
Yes.
wanna, okay, flip it.
Yep.
This
Yep.
is the,
No. Yep.
flip it. That's the basement picture,
Mm-hmm.
flip it.
Mm-hmm.
This is that picture, flip it. Back steps,
Mhm.
flip it. This is the
Mm-hmm.
ramp. I have here a copy on top of the order to correct. Which I will put in the back end here. So this here will be exhibit
D.
D.
No, that one's, this one's D. That
This
one's
is D. This is D.
Okay.
This man is John.
You know, hang on.
Sorry, what's on third? These on second. Huh? What's on third? These on second.
Yes, he can, yes.
Yeah, would you like Mr. Ethier to continue while you mark, or would you rather wait?
Where else?
Go ahead, Mr. Ethier.
I have also an inspection that was done on June 10, 2013. I don't know if I'm allowed to present that to the board, but the conditions at that time were much more serious than they are this time, which proves that Mr. Lewis is operating his business a little bit more stringent as far as garbage and rubbish goes, because this conditions in June 10, 2013 were horrendous. However, as he spoke about, he was in another location on Cranberry Highway, and I get called numerous times because of the conditions of that property.
Mr. Ethier, does that inspection pertain to this site or the other site?
It does not. It pertains to a separate site.
I don't think that should be taken in.
No,
Okay.
All right, Mr. Chairman.
we're only talking about this side.
But this,
Yeah,
however, this inspection...
If I may, through the chairman, Mr. Ethier, what the board is here to consider is that we issued a license, as you know. We issued that license on, oh God, I lost the date, February. Mrs. Whiteside, I did not, I lost the date in the top of my head on the license, the actual license that
Okay,
was
hang
issued.
on.
Oh, shoot.
I think it was sometime in January.
Yes.
I think it was.
And this board issued a license in January to a business person in town, Mr. Lewis. And quite frankly, I'm not interested in today. I'm interested in what took place between the night that we issued the license and your first inspection. They don't clean it up after you go and inspect. That's the property owner's issue. He has some bearing or responsibility there, correct? Through you, Mr. Chairman. So my main focus, to me, in determining what happens here, is from the night that this board issued that license, with strict and forceful commentary, short leash, I recall, restrictions on the license, And then a couple of weeks later, the man came back and asked to have the restrictions removed, and this board reminded again, you were on a very tight leash here. You're lucky you got what you got, and we're going to be paying close attention. And then 6 weeks later, you go out on the March 17th inspection. That's the inspection that I'm focused on. Others can focus on what they wish. But to me, that's the inspection that I'm focused on. So if you could elaborate on that, I appreciate the fact that the property owner may have done some work since March 17th. I can appreciate that Mr. Lewis has done some work since March 17th, but quite frankly, that's not in my consideration, because the license and the restrictions were given on a certain date, and and of course, after the Board of Health and the Fire Department and the Inspectional Services Department, everybody else shows up, naturally you gotta clean something up, or otherwise you're in big trouble, right? And so this is just a reaction. We can't afford, as a board, or Mr. Sullivan got up, we can't afford as a town to be sending inspectors to every business owner, and it's our responsibility to make sure that they're keeping the place clean. That's their responsibility, not ours. So in my opinion, everything you've done after the 17th, and you can talk about it here, and the board probably would love to hear it, and Mr. Lewis is probably glad that you're presenting it. However,
Yes.
I think that the real important issue is what happened from the night we issued the license with those restrictions to the night of your inspection, or the day of your inspection with these other town departments.
May I intervene on that, sir? Mr. Holmes, thank you. On that day, I received the license, that property was cleaned. The property's been swept down and raked thoroughly. And I gave you personally that my word that there will be no items outside consistent of, as your words, any vehicles, any boats, any cars, or anything for sale. A bureau, I came back to this board as a gentleman, rather than just throwing stuff out like everybody else is doing it up and down the avenue, putting hundreds of pieces out. I respect the board's wishes. I did not put one piece of furniture out as you requested, nothing to be put out there, and nothing was put out there. And that property's been maintained since I've been with that inspection on and before. And it's still clean today, sir, and I will remain keeping that property clean. Yes, thank you.
Well, Mr. Chairman, again, if I could respond to that, that's not what was found when the health inspector, the building inspector, and the fire department went to that property on March 17th. Have you seen the pictures?
Yes,
Maybe
I've
through
seen the
chairman,
pictures.
We can get Mr. Lewis a package so
He
that
has
he
them.
can
I have
view
a
those
package.
pictures.
Excuse me, sir.
Did you not look outside at those pictures? The pictures from the
Did
outside?
you look
I have pictures on my phone,
Okay.
sir, from that
Yes.
Sunday.
Yeah.
And
Do you
there
see any debris?
is stuff all over that building, all up along the side of that building. Trailers
Here,
full of crap.
here's-
I have the pictures too.
Well, you guys came down.
And you're
took the
saying that
picture.
they don't exist? You have pictures right in front of you.
Where is the debris? If you can show me the debris, I'll rip up my license
Okay.
right here today.
All right, okay. Oh,
Mr. Chairman, you
we-
want to take the pictures out?
we can't have arguments back and forth.
And I
We gotta have
apologize.
one
Don't get
person
it.
has to speak at a time.
I'm sorry, Mr.
And,
Holmes.
Rich, you're actually the hearing officer, so.
Mr. Chairman, with your permission, I think it would be appropriate at this time to let Mr. Ethier finish his testimony. The board can ask questions of Mr. Ethier. Then we'll call the next witness, and then perhaps we can have some follow-up questions with Mr. Lewis at the conclusion of the testimony. Go ahead, Mr. Ethier.
The conditions that we observed on that day, I can say this, that if I go out on an inspection and I see the trailer full of whatever Mr. Lewis wants to call it, debris or garbage or whatever, and I see a mattress that's peeled, which we have seen in the past in my career as a health agent, I would write the same letter of correction, same letter of violation, and especially on Cranberry Highway, it's unacceptable. Whether it's in a trailer, whether it's on top of the building, whether it's under the building and it's visible somehow, it's still a violation of the state sanitary code. Some of it might be good and some of it might be saleable, but to me, in my experience, it's a violation.
Do you have anything else to add, Mr. Ethier?
No, sir, I don't.
May I
Mr.
intervene?
Lewis, you may question the witness.
Okay, where it's illegal for me to keep trash inside the building of such a category. I put it on my trailer. When the trailer is loaded, I take it to the landfill. I got proof to the landfill numerous times. I don't know what to do. Now, I addressed the board, and I said, if that's an eyesore, I am correcting that as we speak. I purchased a box truck. Rather than having an open trailer, I purchased a box truck to receive this metros that I can go back and forth to the town, and nobody's gonna see what's inside this vehicle. I am registering that vehicle as we speak. I'm just waiting for the title to be presented to me. And that's where that's at. I don't know how. It's like somebody putting rubbish out in this sidewalk. The town picks it up, fine, I mean, it's rubbish there, but I am addressing it, putting it inside a registered vehicle to go to the landfill back and forth. I mean, I'm doing it 3 times a week, maybe 2 times a week. It isn't that I have debris thrown all over the place. Everything I own is in that shop, and everything has a price tag on it to be sold. And I thought I was doing justice by ripping off the clothing off the mattress so that the town board, Bond Landfill, could put some money back into their account.
Mr. Lewis, is this a question for Mr. Ethier?
I mean, I'm addressing what he said.
No,
and
well, no, that's not a
I'm
question.
sorry.
But no, it's all right. If you have a specific question for Mr. Ethier, go ahead and put it to him. If not, I'll call the next witness.
Nope, I don't, and I appreciate your services to the town, and I agree to keep the town clean.
Oh, my apologies.
That's what I appreciate from you, sir, what you are trying to achieve in this town. And I take my hat off to you on that one.
Mr.
he did-
Ethier,
did
there are
not-
some questions from the board for you.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, that's for you, to Mr. Ethier.
Actually, you know, for this hearing, you should go through Rich, okay? 'Cause
Okay.
he's the hearing officer.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Titlebaum.
Thank you for that procedural pointer. With regard to, we have a notice of violation in order to correct, based upon your inspection on March 17th. Subsequently, according to one of our exhibits here, we have a picture, the outside of the premises, one of several pictures. C&B Emporium cleanup, compliance has been met with the initials RE, I believe.
It should be,
Is this your product?
I believe so, yes. That based on my inspector, Richard Johnson, said that he was out there and compliance was completed.
Okay.
It was achieved.
So as of that date, per your office, the property was no longer in a violation status?
That's correct. Board of Health-wise, I can't speak for
Right,
my other
that's why I
inspectors.
specifically narrowed it to your office.
Yes.
Now, you were out there yesterday?
I was out there at the request of the building commissioner yesterday to accompany him there. I didn't see any Board of Health violations from my office that would have to do with the state sanitary code.
And that's what I was going to ask, was had conditions somehow in the intervening 12 days or whatever it was, had those re-deteriorated, if you will?
No, sir, they hadn't.
Is the issue of mold something with which the state sanitary code concerns itself?
No, it does not. It deals strictly with moisture. I didn't see any moisture the times that I was there before. Mr. The building commissioner had mentioned that he had smelled some of that stuff, which I did too, but according to the EPA, there are no guidelines for mildew or mold. So in the code, we can only address it through a moisture issue. Now, I didn't write that up because I didn't see it at that time. It was a lot colder when we were there for that inspection, and it wasn't visible at that time. Nor did I see, it was hard to get into that room. There's no space. It's probably the space that the building commissioner was talking about in that room that had all that you probably saw photos of. I think that's where the main hole was, and it's hard to tell whether there's a moisture problem in there because you just can't climb in to see it. So I didn't think that I was going to write that up as a violation because I wasn't sure. with the code, I have to be sure.
Right. If, and this is a little bit speculative, the hearing officer can clamp down on me if he thinks I'm getting too far out of bounds. Had you seen moisture in there, what would your reaction have been?
My reaction would have been to issue another letter of correction to address the problem with the moisture and the hole in the ceiling. But being there with Mr. Moore, he said he was going to address that, so I
Okay,
figured one of us already have it under control.
fair enough. So you had concurrent jurisdiction as between the two of you in terms of whether there might be a violation, it would be either a health violation or a code violation, building code. Is that fair to say?
That's fair to say, but again, I got to say that I couldn't see it. I couldn't see
Right.
any moisture, but just based on what he was saying about the structural elements in the roof cave in due to the moisture, that it was in his code and he was going to cover it.
Okay. Thank you.
Selectman Whiteside, then Chairman Tropiano.
Thank you. This is to Mr. Ethier, if I may. You were asked to go in under the state sanitary code. What things do you cover? What, what, well, no, I guess it's the icky stuff, but this says that the building has a basement. How did, if he says it has a cement floor, how does it have a basement?
Well, under the code, I think it addresses it as basement. It doesn't indicate whether it's a crawl space or whether it's a dirt floor or a dry floor or whatever. It did have, I was in there the day that I brought all the inspectors with me. It is a concrete floor, if I remember right.
Correct, yes, sir.
And there was a lot of debris, and I believe we wrote that in the letter.
Yeah,
We
you
addressed
wrote
that in the letter.
Basement to be emptied by 4/14. How big is this basement? Is it a crawl space basement? Is it a high tide basement? What kind of a basement is it? If it's a slab building, I, from New England, am not familiar with a basement that doesn't go under something.
I can explain that to you then.
Yeah.
It is probably a quarter to half size the
It's
whole
a
building.
full walk-in basement.
But it's not the whole length of the building.
Negative, half the building is a full walk-in basement, just half of the building, and the front is concrete again, up above.
So
There's
then the access is from the back?
There's access to the back, egress to the back, and one from the front. The exit to go downstairs brings you on into the following walk-in basement, and that's only half. The second level is solid concrete
Okay.
in the front, as the main entrance.
What is the source of water?
Town water.
What is the source of taking care of what goes down?
The overstock that we have, okay, we don't break up furniture upstairs.
No, I'm asking about what goes into the sewer. Do you have,
There's
are you
no
on the sewer?
hazardous in that building at all. Believe me when I tell you, there's no hazardous. We're very updated on that. If anything, it's water-based paint only, and maybe a little half pint of stain where we have to, furniture get nicks and so forth, we will correct that. And that's up.
So is there one bathroom?
There is one bathroom, and there's one that's out of service.
Can you define a bathroom, sir?
Meaning, what kind of condition it is?
No,
Okay.
I need to know how many pieces of porcelain there are in that bathroom.
There's a washstand
Mhm.
and the John, and on both his and hers bathrooms, yes. And it's not open to the public, no.
And one of them is non-functioning.
It's functional, we don't use it. We do not use that one at all.
Excuse me, but I think you just said a minute ago that it was non-functioning.
I'm sorry if you misunderstood me. We're non-functional, we're not using it, I mean to say that to correct all.
Okay. You also commented that you had tags on everything that you have for sale.
Well-
I obviously don't have
I'm
a picture
sorry to
of
interrupt you.
everything that you have for sale, but I don't see a tag on the things that I'm presuming were for sale.
Okay.
So can you explain that
Please.
discrepancy for me, please?
I also do flea markets. I am also a licensed Massachusetts auctioneer, and the product that stays in my place does not stay there too long. If I had to go around, there's approximately 400 to 700, maybe 800 pieces. Some of the stuff gets tagged, the better quality stuff gets tagged, and then the secondary stuff, we open for offers on it, such as a bureau. We might have one there for $75, we might have one for $20. So rather than, I mean, it'd just be mind-boggling, because we remove stuff every week out of that building and back into the building. I do flea markets as well.
In old-fashioned terms, would you be a rag and bones man?
No, ma'am, I am not.
Then explain to me what is the main source of your income?
I sell, I buy, and I trade merchandise, mostly household goods, ma'am.
Which includes clothing,
Uh,
furniture.
Furniture, yes. Clothing, no, I'm really not into clothes. Some, yeah. Well, again, when we clean out an estate, we take the clothes, we put them in a tub like that, and Salvation Army can verify this for me, and we donate those clothes back to be recycled to the public. Now, the clothes that are no good, they recycle it, they chop it up, and they turn it into rags. And those rags become recycling for numerous businesses.
You're speaking for the Salvation Army. I just am interested in what you do with your product. You can't speak for what somebody else does with.
Okay, I understand that, I apologize.
Okay.
What we did with those, we put them in a tub, and we'll donate them to the Salvation Army.
One last question. When you do an estate cleanup or whatever you call it, when you go to a building,
Correct.
okay, do you charge by the pound, the hour, the size of the building? How do you bid that
A
one?
person will come to me and say, Mr. Lewis, Aunt Tilly passed away, would you go clean out her property? We will receive the goods. I don't charge to remove them. I will either take them to the auction for a 60-40%, and the debris we'll take, again, back to the landfill. Anything of value, we'll take to the shop and we resell it. Or I can auction it off, which I stopped the auctions because the auction business is a little bit out of focus right now.
Thank you.
You're welcome, ma'am.
Mr. Chairman?
Thank you.
So, we've talked about the holes in the roof and that room that you can't get into. Does anybody have pictures of that?
Yes, sir, I believe that the building commissioner took pictures.
Because we don't have any in our packet. There's no picture of that room,
Well, no, we have a
or
sump
nor the
hole.
holes in the roof.
No, we don't have of the holes in the roof, but we have a sump hole.
They were in the packet that I gave the, selectmen, that I gave to Shirley.
Well, I don't have
Is,
any.
is this the basement stuff?
I
There
can't
were-
see it
There
from
were
here.
some pictures of the basement, but there was also a picture of one room stacked that high with the hole up above.
I don't see anything in my stuff here.
Could you,
Could I approach the board?
may
Yes,
he?
you can.
Okay. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Talking about photos that were taken yesterday.
Yes.
Let's see if we have them here.
Those are the
They
same.
were on light table like this. They were colored, but they were light.
Well, one second, we do have them as part of the letter
Ha,
that
here
you
we go.
submitted.
Yeah, this, is this what you're looking at?
Yes, this was the, there should be a set of color pictures.
Yep, but no, we don't have,
Don't
Were
have,
those- were they placed in the
no, they were not.
packet? No? Then apparently the photos you gave us were simply scanned, black and white, and provided.
So each of you
To each
do
of us
have
with your
a
recent
picture of it. May I just hold these up for a
Well,
second?
before we worry about whether the board has them, I think Mr. Lewis should be given an opportunity to see these photographs, if he hasn't already. So, Mr. Moore, could you show those to Mr. Lewis? And can I ask who's offering these pictures at this time? Are these coming in through Mr. Ethier?
Give me your copy.
Well,
These pictures were taken by myself.
all right. And
Okay.
So have you given Mr. Lewis a copy?
No, I haven't.
Well, okay, well, two things.
He's already testified, right?
Unless they're being introduced through testimony, unless Mr. Lewis has an opportunity to see them, they don't come into the board. So, Mr. Moore, if you could show those to Mr. Lewis.
I'm sorry, I can't get up, my back is hurt. Okay.
I'm assuming the board will
Yes.
wish to
Okay, all right.
have some redirect of Commissioner Moore.
I'm
Do you have
just
this?
waiting to see the pictures,
Yeah.
that's all.
And it looks like this, and it's in your packet.
Do you want 5 minutes? 5 minutes for him to look at it?
I'm sorry?
Yeah, my question was to see if we had the pictures. I mean, if we have pictures of that room, somehow I'd like to get them introduced.
They're right here. And Mr. Lewis is being
I'm
shown a
showing
copy.
it to Mr. Lewis
Okay.
right now. It's written in
Yeah.
magic mark. It says
Okay.
interior storage next to the display area under the
Correct.
ceiling.
Yep.
Correct.
Okay,
They'll come back.
please stop.
Go ahead.
Please stop. Mr. Moore took these pictures. Is everyone done questioning Mr. Ethier?
Yes.
All right. Selectman Holmes.
One quick question. Thank you, Mr. Hearing Officer. Based on Mrs. Whiteside's questions, Mr. Ethier, I guess my concern turns to paint being poured down into the sewer, some paint thinner, and small amounts of stain being poured down the drain. Is that a Board of Health issue, or would that fall under the inspectional services, or would that be under the fire department, in your opinion?
Well,
It's a sewer violation.
Yeah, it's a sewer
yeah,
violation.
I would
Sewer
think,
violations?
it could be a sewer violation if it was poured down there, but if it's just on the shelf somewhere and intact, it wouldn't have been an issue with me at that
Right.
point.
I'm talking about it being poured down the drain. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Bowman.
Well, no, unless you have a question for Mr. Ethier, we're going to let Mr. Ethier go. Just make a note of the comment that you want to address to the board, and when we get to closing statements, you can address that point. Now, before we move to Inspector Braley, there's the issue of these photographs that I want to deal with. And before we hear testimony on the photographs, Mr. Moore, could you tell us when the photographs were taken?
They were taken yesterday,
Bob, you're all set.
Thank you.
April 27th, yesterday.
Could
All
you
right.
step forward and use
Yeah.
the mic, sir, please?
Yeah, come on forward.
They were taken April 27th, yesterday.
Now, Mr. Lewis,
Yes, sir?
when you received this notice, were you aware that the roof condition was part of the allegations that would be raised
I
tonight?
believe so, sir, and again, I'll address, I want it to be thoroughly dried out so the mold won't continue.
All right, so you feel you had notice of this issue
Yes,
for
sir.
tonight? All right.
Just a point of clarification here. He may have known that he had an issue, but he may not have known that it rose to the level of a violation at the time he was,
Yeah.
by
I
his
know.
own, whereas amateurishly trying to address the issue.
Yeah, let me ask you the question a little differently.
Sure.
When you came in tonight,
Correct?
back up. You received this notice letter
Yes, sir.
dated April 15th, 2015.
No, sir. This is another one, sir.
Please, let me finish this. You received the letter dated April 15th, 2015, which was notice of this hearing, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, when you read this notice and the materials that were attached, were you aware that the roof condition issue was one of the things that you would be answerable for tonight?
Absolutely, sir.
All right,
And I thought I was doing the right thing by letting it dry out
okay.
to correct the matter. and I
Well,
was-
setting aside the drying out, I
Okay.
just want to make sure that you feel you've had proper notice of the roofing issue and that might become a part of this proceeding.
I understand, and may I address the board on this?
Well, no, just please answer the question.
Yes,
Do you feel that you were given, by this letter, that you were given proper notice that the roofing issue was going to be on the table tonight?
in all honesty, yes, sir.
All right.
Now, may I make another suggestion on this?
Well, no, hold on.
I'm
So
sorry.
we now have some questions for Mr. Moore regarding the photographs that he took. Mr. Moore, could you tell us Could I have the photographs back, please? Mr. Moore, could you tell us when you took them and what the photographs depict? You can just hold them up as you go, and then we'll mark them as an exhibit.
Okay, on top of this packet, there's one that has the word ceiling mold written in the upper right-hand corner. That was a spot in the rear, on the right-hand side of the building.
Could you just pass them over to Mr. Lewis as you go, please?
He has a copy of it, sir.
No, I don't believe he does.
Bearings here. Yeah, that's the upper part. Correct, yes.
Yes. Okay,
Does spare?
I don't have it. I gave it away. No,
Thank you,
he just
sir.
gave it away.
He's on first.
There's too many clips.
Also in this packet, there is one, this one appears to be maybe the third photograph in. It says ceiling hole, top center on the sheet.
From the 15th. I had the right date on it.
Color photograph shows it better, but this one you can see a little piece of black stuff hanging down. That's, I believe that's insulation hanging down through a hole in the ceiling.
Okay.
And the other one, I think is most important, is, I believe it's the next one. It says interior storage next to the display under the ceiling hole. And it's that one right there. That's the one Mr. Lewis has in front of him right now.
Correct.
So if those are all the photographs, why don't we mark that package as Exhibit F?
May I address?
Hold on one second,
I'm
Mr.
sorry,
Lewis.
sir.
This thing's going in too many different directions, and that's going to stop. Mr. Moore, could you bring that up to the clerk?
I have a copy, sir.
Thank you. All right. Did anyone have any questions for Mr. Moore regarding the photographs? Selectman Slavin.
No, I did not.
Is your mic
Mike.
on?
No, it's not. Did you inspect the roof on the inside or the outside with a leak pour?
I only inspected the damage to the ceiling on the inside.
Any idea whether it was snow or ice created or just let go?
Just water damage. I really don't know what the source was.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Moore? Selectman Titlebaum.
Just going back to the roof issue, have you reviewed the correspondence from Agent Ethier?
No, I have not.
Okay, so you did not see his letter of notice of violation emanating from his March 17th inspection?
No.
Okay. So then you don't know if the roof was mentioned or not in that correspondence?
No, I do not.
Okay.
All set. Selectman Whiteside.
Okay, can I see that for a second, please? Thanks. The picture that says basement on it and has a mattress on it, you have that, sir?
Yes, I do, ma'am.
Do you have this, sir? Mr. Moore?
Yes, yes, I do.
Okay. In this picture, I see a mattress, a broken laundry basket, a milk crate, what looks like a busted pot, a plastic table, a few plastic bins, another milk crate, I don't know, something dangling from the ceiling. But the mattress is the one, and apparently a covered mattress in the back. Am I correct?
Correct, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I'm a dummy. Is it against the law to sell a used mattress?
I have a signature on the state of Massachusetts, Commonwealth of Massachusetts, that I will be penalized up to $15,000 if I get caught selling a mattress. The Salvation Army recently sold mattresses. I've never sold a used mattress in my entire life. I know the prospects
Have
of
you
it.
given them away, sir?
No, ma'am, I would not do that.
Then why are they here, stored in back of everything as opposed to
That was my
stripped, excuse me?
Yes, ma'am.
Stripped and on the back porch, ready so that you can recycle the metal
Okay.
part of it and put the rest of it in a bag
You're
and
correct.
burn it.
Thank you, I appreciate that. We haven't gotten to that stage yet. We take it upstairs onto the platform, we strip it down, and we send it off to the landfill. The bedding goes to the landfill, the proceeds of the monies goes to the town of Bourne, as I've been doing for the last 2.5 years, because they are charging outrageous to get rid of a mattress today. It's $25 or $30 for a mattress. A tire today at the landfill is $25. A TV is $35 to $40. So that's good,
Okay.
kind of.
Do you both have this one? It says basement and it has a broken chair, a box of shredded paper, a lot of, looks like plastic coat hangers.
We are disposing of that every other day. We pull that stuff out of it, ma'am. And it's in the basement. It's not upstairs for nobody to look at. It's not for sale. It's not garbage. It's not debris. It's stuff that we bust up and we throw it to the landfill.
Thank you.
Other questions at this point?
May,
Yes, do you have questions for Mr.
yes,
Please.
I am 5'4". The ceiling in that place location is 8-foot standard ceiling. I am 5'4". The windowsill is approximately 38 inches tall. I'm 5'4". My height doesn't receive that, so it's not a crawl space. It's approximately almost 3.5 feet from the ceiling to the debris. If that's an issue, what we do, it's a 5x7 room, which we put product there, we open up my garage door, and we put it on the loading docks, from the loading docks onto the disposal of the trailer, sir. And I don't know what else I can do with this.
Any questions for Mr. Moore? Thank you, Mr. Moore.
Mr. Moore, may I have that copy back, sir? Thank you.
Yes, we were going to mark that as exhibit
God bless.
F, I
I
think.
think I did, but
But did you already mark it?
I'm not
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Moore. Inspector Brayley?
Nope.
did I?
Could you just identify yourself,
Good
please?
evening, Mr. Chairman and Board. My name is William Braley. I am the Fire Prevention Officer in the Onset Fire District for the Onset Fire Department. I have a couple follow-ups, including the initial inspection done with the other inspectors of the town on March 17th. During our walkthrough, I had 5 violations that was noted and addressed with Mr. Lewis. The number one I have on here, basically all this stuff came out of 527 CMR 1, which is the new fire code for starting this past January. Chapter 14 was means of egress shall be continuously maintained free of all obstructions or impediments to full instant use in case of fires or other emergencies. This one, unfortunately, what was going on is obviously a lot of the clutter that's been going on with what he so calls his merchandise and so forth. Where this falls, I have to have a clear pathway between his main egress in the front and the rear. The 3 feet is what I required him to maintain. I understand he has aisles going up both the B side of the building and the D side of the building, the left and right. Those are not justified to be completely free and clear. If people are in the middle walkways and they are searching, going through the stuff and searching for things, then he's maintaining my 3-foot minimum in the middle to allow for an egress out the front or the back in case of an emergency. I did advise him that I would prefer to have as much cleared out for aisles in between each individual section. So, and so far he's, in the following follow-up inspections, he has kept to that. The second was doors marked as exits must be unlocked and remain unlocked during times the building is being occupied for business hours. The rear access door was locked when I went in. That is completely unacceptable. It is marked as an exit. It needs to be maintained as an exit, free and clear of all obstruction. He was addressed about having things stacked up to the side of the door, also having the door locked. By the fire code, he is allowed to have a crash bar on the door. That is his choice if he chooses to purchase a crash bar for the door, so he can keep it locked from the exterior. If he doesn't have so-called a security to watch his merchandise. He chooses not to, so he has to maintain the turn lock on it and keep it free and clear. And follow inspections, he has done so far. The third issue where exits are not immediately accessible from an open floor area, continuous pathways, aisles, and corridors leading directly to every exit shall be maintained. Kind of like the first issue, just a little bit more in depth on making sure that 3 foot is maintained at all times. The fourth issue, or fourth violation, exits other than main exterior doors that are obviously clear are identifiable as exits shall be marked by an approved sign that is readily visible from any direction of exit access. The rear access door, the emergency light was inoperable. The sign was not illuminated, so it would not be noticed if there was a loss of power, and if it was short daytime, 4:30, 5 o'clock when it gets dark, if we lost power, you wouldn't be able to find your way out through that back door. The emergency lighting on the side of the exit sign did not operate as well, and so forth. The fifth issue was the building services, and also under that was the heating appliances, the furnace and the oil tank. I'm not a technician, an oil technician or a tank technician. If there's liquid underneath it, and when I was there was a bucket probably about the size of this, 4 inches thick, about halfway filled with fluid. Since then, it's been cleaned up, and he was notified to have, for all 5 violations, 72 hours. The door to be unlocked was an immediate being in business still. So he did address that in my site. He did correct that and unlock it. Number 2, 3, and 4 were given 72 hours, and number 5 was given 72 hours to be notified or notify an oil burner technician to have come out and check it and service the tank and furnace. I understand there was a little bit of a lapse between the 72 hours I gave him. I did go in and address and check on the violations. The 5th with the heating system and appliance, that was never taken care of at that immediate time at the 72 hours. Violation 1, 2, 3, and 4 were addressed, and and correction was starting to happen. I understand it's a work in progress. I understand that, Mr. Lewis, I can't say he didn't do anything to his back, but I give him the benefit of the doubt. I understand his landlord was in the hospital as well. So I did give ample time for him to make these corrections, other than the 72 hours. On April 16th, 2015, after ample time was given for corrections of the 5 code violations enforced by this office, 1 through 4 were corrected within the 72 hours on March 17th during inspection to meet my minimal approval with some further correction in due time. Violation 5 still was not corrected, so on the 16th day of April, at 14:39 hours, both the oil tank and the oil burner were red tagged out of service, with a 24-hour emergency repair deadline set. As of April 17th, 2015, at approximately 11:30 hours, notification was made to my office by a technician making the repairs. The work has been completed and corrections have been made. So that was on April 16th. And I actually went out the day before Mr. Moore and Mr. Ethier went out. On April 27th, 2015, I conducted an inspection at C&B Emporium for the corrections of the fifth violation from the March 17th, 2015 joint inspection. As my inspection records show, the oil tank and the oil burner have been corrected and are capable of full working order. On behalf of Mr. Lewis, he has made a valiant effort maintaining the overall clutter of the products being sold in his establishment, with some further upkeep and some frequent visits from my office. And this is all being in interest of public safety. And to answer kind of what you were saying to Mr. Ethier, the inspection services were not babysitters, and I understand that. And Mr. Lewis should understand that as well. But my concern is the people that go into his establishment. You know, what he fails to do or what he decides to correct, you know, does fall on us. But at the end of the day, as long as I go into that building and I know that people are gonna go into that building and come out of that building safely, that is my only concern. So, and I do have documentation of the inspection. I understand I don't have 5 or 6 copies. I also do have pictures of the company that came to on March 7th, on April 7th, I'm sorry.
16.
March,
16.
April 17th, I apologize. On April 17th, I do have pictures of the tag that was serviced for the boiler and the oil tank. And I did not meet the guy personally, the technician, so I did pull his information for making sure that his license and everything was up to date and adequate. So it was professionally taken care of.
All right. Mr. Lewis, do you have questions for Inspector Braley?
Nope, I appreciate what he corrected me on, as far as keeping that door open, and also where another situation which I was not aware of was I had a couple of refrigerators up against the window. Now, to my knowledge, I know what to do and how to get it away from the window for these gentlemen to either get into the building in emergency, go through the glass, or get out of the building. And I apologize to the fire department in the town. I was not aware of this. I pulled everything away. My walkway is not 2 feet or 3. It is actually 4 to 5 feet now. And I just wanted to make sure that the fire department and the Board of Selectmen is aware of that, because some places have 1 or 2 feet to walk in. A mother can actually walk through here with a baby carriage and be safe.
Okay.
All
Do you
right,
have questions for the inspector, though?
I'm sorry, yes.
No? Okay.
I'm all done.
Selectman Titlebaum?
In your inspection of the egress points, was the signage appropriate under the 527 CMR, indicating the exits?
Yes, there was probably about an 8-foot hallway between the first door and the actual rear egress door. There is an exit sign right in front of that first, which is for where exit signs are placed and mandated to be placed. That is under the building code. That is enforced by the building department, but as part of the emergency action for it, it is tested and maintained by my office.
Right.
So
And you found that to be in order?
that was in order, yes.
Thank you.
Other questions from the board? Selectman Whiteside?
Is it necessary for us to have a copy of that report in this proceedings?
Does the report, does your testimony substantially correspond with the report that you prepared?
Yes, if you so choose, you guys can have all of this if you want.
All right. Mr. Lewis, do you object to the introduction of the report?
Absolutely not, sir.
Would you like an opportunity to review it before it goes to the board?
No, I appreciate what he did and taught me what I am supposed to do. I appreciate that, sir. Thank you.
If you could bring that forward to the clerk, I'd appreciate it. Selectman
Thank you,
Holmes?
sir.
Yes, oh, 1 second.
Yep, of course.
I guess you were present in March on the 17th
Yes.
during that initial inspection.
Yep.
And thank you for your service. And I was really serious when I said that you or our other departments, Mr. Sullivan's back now, you are not babysitters for people that the Board of Selectmen issue licenses to. When we issue those licenses to people, we expect them to maintain all of safety standards as well as town laws. So my question to you is pretty simple. As a layman, I don't know if you've had a chance to review the packet from March 17th, but you were there. In your opinion, as a fire inspection safety officer, in layman's terms, did you consider that building on that day to be a fire hazard?
Absolutely.
Would you want to put the lives of your fellow firemen on the line to go fight a fire in that building on March 17th?
Nope.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Other questions from the board? No.
May I
Yes-
just make one
yes, ma'am.
comment, sir? On the March 17th report, it actually says violation 5 was given 72 hours for the notification to the property owner to make the necessary notifications to a certified company to come and clean and maintain, can we have one more, please? Maintain the heating appliance in the basement, as there is a small leak at the base of the furnace where the supply line from the oil tank enters. I read that to be that there was an oil leak.
Mhm.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Inspector.
So, Mr. Hearing Officer, so then the point is, what was in that bucket in those pictures was actually oil? Through you, to someone who saw the bucket? We heard that it was water a few minutes ago.
Well, Inspector
If the
Braley, let's
oil
treat
feed-
that as a question from Selectman Holmes. Do you know what was in the bucket?
I do not. I go on what's wet and not mine. I don't touch it. So.
Gotcha.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right, with your permission, Mr. Chairman, I think this is where we are in the proceedings. That's all of the testimony from the inspectional people. Mr. Lewis, do you have anyone that you'd like to call as a witness?
No, I have, all I'm saying, I complied what the board asked me to do.
Okay, well, hold on. So, members of the board, what we'll do at this point is I'll give Mr. Lewis an opportunity to make a closing statement. I'm then going to ask the board to close the hearing. I'm then going to give you some brief remarks on the law as applicable to this hearing. So, Mr. Lewis, I've been taking notes at different points on things that you had said that you wanted to address, and I'd said, no, not yet, in your
Thank you.
closing. And those were the roof, the stain or paint thinner that was stored, compliance with Inspector Braley, Mr. Ethier, and Mr. Moore's recommendations, and I suppose we'll also add this bucket, which has been the subject of some
Correct.
recent inquiry. So why don't you give us your closing statement, tell the board what you want the board to know, and if you could address
Okay.
those issues, the board would find that helpful.
Thank you for your concern, sir. There is no flammable substance in the building at all. I am very cautious to that. My son owns a body shop, and he updates me constantly what to do and how to do. There was a lot of conversation in that basement, and that's where that bucket perhaps gained some water. The gentleman who fixed the valve, he says there was no leakage there at all, and he will testify that there was no leaks on that. However, I said, please, to satisfy the Board of Selectmen or the town of Wareham, will you please reconstruct and rebuild everything? My family are plumbers throughout all my history. My dad was a plumber, master plumber. My brother's a master plumber. So I asked him to generate from the tank to the valve, to the orifice, to the receiver, to replace every single thing there for safety. And that's what he done. He brought in a crew of 3 other guys, plus he is the owner, and they worked down there for approximately 2.5 hours to eliminate any questions at all. That's where it's at. Again, I will oblige if there's something wrong that I can correct. I will be step forward. I enjoy working, doing this business in this town. I like this town. And I wish they would consider to put me on a violation if there's any. There are people in this town that are working, and I don't want to throw stones at anybody, but the board is working very, very hard to come to an agreement. Fortunately, I was sick last night. I couldn't attend the meeting. But I know this board, all their balls are up in the air, how to address this situation as far as the junk license. What is a junk license? One man came in to me and says, well, you have an opportunity to take vehicles in here, strip vehicles of their contents and parts. I said, I'm not,
I'll just say that gentleman would be wrong.
okay.
But,
Yeah,
so let's
definitely
not-
wrong.
So let's not visit
Okay.
that one.
And also, I'm awarded with my license to collect precious metals. I do not collect gold, and I do not collect silver, and I don't want no part of that. I had a young lady come in, gave me a hug and a kiss, which I had the blue moons, I don't know this person, and she thanked me. I said, do I know you? She says, no, but I want to thank you because you posted a sign that you do not buy precious metals here. My house was broken into, my diamond rings, my grandmother's stuff, and my husband's stuff was stolen. That's why I received a hug and a kiss. And to date, I will not buy precious metal, even though I have the right to sell this, and I don't buy it. So that's my outcome at this moment.
Mr. Chairman, 2 points left. Number one, it would probably be appropriate for the board to close the hearing under your direction, and then I'd like to make a few remarks on the
Okay,
law.
motion to close the hearing, please.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Mr. Titlebaum, seconded by Ms. Whiteside. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, it's unanimous, 500.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You've heard testimony from various witnesses, from Mr. Lewis. I think as you deliberate on the evidence that you've heard, there are a few things to keep in mind. Number one, the gentleman is licensed to sell junk. So the fact that there is, in fact, junk on the property does not constitute a violation. You heard one of the witnesses testify that the place was half filled with junk. There's nothing inappropriate with the place being half filled with junk. The gentleman is licensed to sell junk, so that's fine. The issue here, as outlined in the notice hearing, is the condition in which the premises are maintained. And it's up to you to determine as to whether the condition is being maintained in accordance with the provisions of the license. Now, you've heard testimony as to the state of the property as of the date that the notice went out and the allegation and the reports that were attached. You've heard testimony regarding people's personal observations as to the condition. You've heard testimony regarding subsequent ameliorative efforts, which you may or may decide to or may decide not to credit in reaching your decision. But the bottom line here is that under Chapter 140, Section 54, which is the junk statute, persons who hold junk licenses hold them at the pleasure of the board. And to quote the statute, such licenses may be revoked at pleasure.
Yes.
A remarkable standard. The board has chosen to give a hearing regarding these allegations, and the board was not required to do so, or it's arguable as to whether it had to do so. But the board has done the right thing by holding a hearing, giving the gentleman the opportunity to address the board.
And I appreciate that, sir.
And by hearing witnesses. But having done so, and having given notice, we're bound by the same standards that would apply to licenses where giving notice is required. So you must be mindful of what the gentleman had notice of and how the testimony that was offered related to the notice that he was given. Things that do not relate to the notice that he was given and to the allegations should be driven from your mind. It should be as if they were never said. So matters that do not pertain to the condition of the business should not be considered relevant to your decision. Just to reiterate, he may not be penalized for selling junk. It's the manner in which he sells the junk and the cleanliness of the premises that should be the operative factors as you make your decision. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. right, board members, I saw Alan's hand first.
Right to the beginning of the questions, when we asked, the building's not suitable for a retail business in the condition it's in, which is not the gentleman's fault, but the landlord's fault, basically, because he's a tenant at will. And we asked the question, would you get an occupancy permit from the Director of Inspection Services? The answer is no. Under those two answers, there should not be a business operating in that location right now. That's me.
Okay. Steve, you're...
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, I'd like to just take a moment, and I can appreciate the description of a deliberation through town council. And I happen to agree with him that we did issue a junk license to sell secondhand goods. What took place last evening and what's taken place over the last several weeks here in Chambers has nothing to do with tonight's hearing. Tonight's hearing has to do with what was found on March the 17th when the Inspection Services Department, the Health Department, and the Fire Department visited a business that we have licensed. Visited a business that we gave a very tight leash to because of the gentleman's history at another location. And so the board put very strict restrictions on that business. We didn't want junk outside. We didn't, because junk is what he sells. And we said that we didn't want anything saleable outside. So under town council's description just a moment ago, all of that stuff that the pictures were considered junk. And we said we didn't want junk outside. So those pictures depicting all that stuff outside is junk outside. And based on the history, based on the fact that the building shouldn't even be occupied, based on the fact that that damage has been there for many months, this isn't something new. And, you know, at such a time, I'm going to make a motion to revoke this license and take the license back to the town. Thank you.
Mr. Titlebaum.
Just hearkening back to what council acting as hearing officer just told us, the roof issue is substantially out. Mr. Lewis, I respect that you tried to placate us by saying you expected to address those issues tonight, but respectfully, those were not part of the notice violation that brought you in here in the first place on March 17th. So as we were advised, it's not fair for us to consider that as evidence against you. And part of the back and forth I had with counsel as hearing officer here was to try to get you to realize that you didn't have to answer tonight for that particular condition. You certainly do need to answer for it going forward. And my inclination, if I'm even interested in allowing you to remain in business, which I'm not so sure I am, at minimum, I would want a suspension of that license until such time as a construction supervisor signs off after getting the proper building permit that he's repaired that roof. I don't want you up there. I don't want your friends up there. A construction super, a state-certified construction supervisor to do the work and seal that building up. That's as nice as I might be, frankly, and I don't know that I want to be that nice, but that's as good as it's going to get from me. With respect to the notion that we're looking at junk, I sense a little bit of word parsing from you on what you had outside that was observed on March 17th and the notion of saleability. Now, anything we know can be sold. Apparently, it's your contention that the stuff that was stored outside was what, from an estate sale, from a clean out, from something like that, and you were just waiting to get it out of off the premises? Did you get rid of all those materials? That's what I can't determine. No, I'm just talking to myself.
He's not answering, and it's okay. He can talk to yourself.
Yeah.
But he can't, you can't answer.
I don't know that was ever made clear one way or the other. I do know that in the part of the condition of your license was no items for sale to be stored outside. That is clear. Were these items for sale? I don't know. I can't tell. There wasn't enough in the testimony. Perhaps I should have asked more questions. Was the outside cleaned up? Yes. Is there junk inside the place? Absolutely. If you went down into my cellar, would you want to give me an occupancy permit to run a retail business? Probably not. We won't even talk about 3-foot corridors down there. The issue here is we're dealing with enforcing a junk bylaw that doesn't really set up standards for the retail sale of junk. It doesn't set up standards for how you store things from an estate sale. After you clean it out, you bring it into the building, you go through it, because we understand that doesn't take place at the estate property. You simply throw the stuff in a truck, you get out of Dodge, you bring it back to the facility, you go through it. Some goes off and is disposed of, some goes upstairs for sale, whatever it is. I honestly don't know how, frankly, I should react to this, because I don't have clear guidance in our bylaw for this. So these are the things that I'm considering. I certainly want to listen to my fellows to know what they think about it. I certainly know where Mr. Holmes stands. I do think that the issue of a certificate of occupancy in a retail location is of some concern. I certainly think a leaking roof that's causing a mold issue is cause to shut you down temporarily, and that's where I stand right now.
May I address the board?
No, you can't. Go ahead, Judy.
I echo my fellows to my left in their comments.
Okay. For one, you can't repair the building. It's commercial property. Unless you're licensed, you can't do it anyway. You have to have somebody qualified with a license to go down and pull a permit and do the job. Okay? So whether you are a carpenter or whatever is irrelevant. However, you know, I remember this has been a touchy license from the beginning, okay? And I think this board has given you a lot of leeway. Absolutely, sir. And tried to work with you. We tried to say whatever. And frankly, I went by the property.
Yep.
Between you and I. Right after they went by the property, 2 days later, I went by the property. And I was amazed to see that it hadn't been cleaned up already. Because I can tell you that if I had gotten a violation like that, and it was my business, I'd have had my butt out there, I'd have cleaned that thing up that minute, that day. If I had half the town's forces in to jump on me. I would have been out there right away and cleaned it up, and it wasn't. Matter of fact, I picked up the phone and called one of my fellow selectmen and said, you know they haven't cleaned this up yet? I was shocked when I went by. So, you know, you really are just on thin ice here. I mean, you really have not done the right thing, and you haven't kept the place. Look, I wouldn't even want to walk in your place under the what I heard here today. I wouldn't even want to walk in and buy something. I'd be afraid what might come with it, to be frank with you.
Okay.
I mean, mold and things and, you know, exits blocked. And, I mean, it's just, you know, this is no way to run a business. It's just not. And I would be in favor at this point, at the very least, of suspending your license until that building was made tip-top shape.
Okay.
That would be my opinion.
I
But it's
forgot-
going to be up to my members.
I forgot to
You
address the
can't
board.
say anything. I'm
I
sorry.
cannot say
Your
nothing.
time is over.
Okay,
Okay? This is the board deliberating right now. That's what we're doing, okay?
all right.
As far as the hearing's concerned. All right, so that's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it. Anybody else have anything else to say? All right, then it's appropriate to have motions.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Holmes.
Mr. Chairman, based on the license, solely on the license that was issued by the Board of Selectmen with the stipulations that were put in place on that license to this particular business, I make a motion that we, I think the proper word is rescind the license and remove. Would that be correct? I make a
Rescind
motion
or
that we rescind the license.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, so I have a motion by Mr. Holmes, seconded by Ms. Whiteside. Is there any discussion about the license, the motion on the floor? Go ahead, Mr. Titlebaum.
Well, I sense where three members are fairly firm on this. I sense you and I would give one more life to this particular cat.
Yep.
But I don't see anybody else joining us on this.
Well, we'll only know when
When
the
the
vote
vote-
is taken. Go ahead, Mr. Slavin.
The way the deal was, back in March, the violations were there. They've been cleaned up, basically taken care of stuff. There are things really outside the person's control as a tenant at will. I've been there years ago, so I understand how things work. To sit there and revoke the license, I have a little, I'm not that crazy about that. My issue really is that we're running a business in a facility that's not proper. I wouldn't mind suspending the license at this point, having another location found, and getting the place fixed, and then if he wants to come back to us. But right now, I don't believe there should be a business in that building.
I think, I agree with that. I think that's my opinion. I think what should happen is we suspend the license. Can we do that, Rich?
Yes.
We could suspend the license subject to him either getting a place that's adequate or making this place viable, one of the two. It either has to meet the criteria that it doesn't violate Chapter 2, and that it meets all the building codes, and it meets all the fire codes, right? Or it doesn't. And then in which case, then the license. Matter of fact, I'd be in favor of making, Steve, I'd be in favor of making it suspended and giving a deadline. even
Yes.
If we so choose. And if it's not done and accomplished by that date, then it's automatically permanently suspended,
Revoked.
or permanently revoked. I'd do something like that. Go ahead, Steve.
Mr. Chairman, you're assuming that my motion to revoke has anything at all to do with the building. It has nothing to do with the building. This Board of Selectmen issued a license to a business, that business owner, with certain stipulations, regardless of holes in the roof, regardless of the fire department, regardless of the Board of Health, regardless of the Inspectional Services Department. This business owner thumbed his nose at us and decided that he was not going to follow those stipulations. He came in here and asked the five of us to rescind those, at which the five of us said, absolutely not. I think we could play the tape if we needed to. And 2 weeks later, Inspectional Services goes out there, Mr. Chairman, and none of those stipulations were being followed that we just said that we were all firm on. It has nothing to do with the building. It has to do with the license we issued, the stipulations we put on that license, and the failure of a business owner to follow those stipulations. It has nothing to do with being a carpenter or anything else. It has to do with the license.
Okay.
So that's my argument to Mr. Slavin. I can appreciate building stuff, but this discussion and hearing has nothing to do with the building. It has to do with the license and the improper behavior of a business owner to the stipulations on that license.
Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Titlebaum.
Well, again, our license stipulation, I do believe, referred to the word sale, and I was just flipping back through the pictures that we have here, and just going through them, even in a junk emporium, I question whether any of this stuff that we're seeing strewn outside, and I will say strewn outside, it is not attractive at all, and I would suggest that any further licenses this board issues are going to have to contain conditions that it's not just items for sale that are not to be left outside, it's anything to be left outside. Because I think our language there may have afforded you a slight loophole. I don't see.
That was the second stipulation on the license.
It was.
I don't see that this ladder could be sold, notwithstanding that there's some broken for sale sign stuck in it. The ladder's broken. It's unsafe. I don't know about the lawnmower. I don't know about the plastic tub. If these, well, I'm not asking. I'm just
Right.
showing for the camera. And that's the problem here, is we have what appears to be a violation, but I don't know under the technical terms of the license if it is a violation. I do know that the establishment is not safe for business at this point in time, and for that reason, you should not be allowed to operate it until it is.
Okay. Go ahead, Ms. Whiteside.
Thank you. I would echo what Mr. Holmes has said. And I would also say that within a 2-week period from originally issuing the license, the gentleman was back in front of us asking for some changes. It is a license that is granted at will. I believe Mr. Town Council read from the law saying that it is revocable at will. Am I correct, sir? At pleasure? At pleasure, okay. And I, for one, am, whether you had problems in a previous iteration of your business or not, I'm really not interested in. They seem to follow you, however. And I would be irresponsible to vote anything other than to revoke the license on behalf of the citizens of Wareham.
Okay, any other discussion? All right, so we have a motion on the floor,
And a second.
and a second. I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstain? Okay, so it's 2-3-0,
Mhm.
okay? So now another motion would be in order.
I move. Pardon me? It's a joke. Actually, it's been a very serious proceeding. This has gone on for an hour and 45 minutes. Well, if you don't get the result you want, it's not a joke.
Okay, all right, calm down. Calm down. Calm down. Let's, are you gonna make a motion?
Yeah.
Okay, make a motion.
First, before I make the motion, though, I'd like to check with the board and see what would be a reasonable amount of time to allow the business owner to either find a new location or get this one up to snuff. But
I'm thinking,
60
60
days?
days.
Okay.
No, I'm thinking 30. This has been going on since March 17th, that's 30 days. So if you go another 30 days, he's had 60 days, which is what you want to give him, but he's already had 30.
Well, the roof issue,
Roofs don't just break overnight.
they don't just break overnight, but to the extent that he was essentially informed by Mr. Moore he had to do something about it, that happened on the 27th. So I think the clock can start ticking from that time.
Well, I think,
Slow burns.
you can talk out loud, but I think maybe a motion, please.
Okay, I move to suspend the license for a period of 60 days, at which time it shall be revoked unless the business comes forward with either a new location, having been inspected by the Board of Health, the Onset Fire or Wareham Fire Departments, depending on the location, and the Commissioner of Buildings, Inspectional Services.
Absolutely.
And found to be in operable, safe conditions.
May
I'd rather see that we're gonna suspend the license and put something in there that'll be up to this board whether or not they want to basically vote to put the license back into effect. I don't wanna sit there and leave it as if they do find something, it automatically gets put back in.
Okay.
Because
Say that again?
when it comes back to us, if we decide we want to not revoke it at that time frame, if we want to allow it, I want to make sure this board has a set of conditions that are finite, with no second, third chance or anything.
My understanding, sir, is that we can revoke it at pleasure. That means
We
when
can,
I feel like it.
But the way Peter's motion is, it just says if he gets this done, he automatically gets reinstated.
I don't believe that's
I
what,
don't want it automatically
No,
reinstated.
Peter, we want all that information to come back.
Okay, I'll withdraw the motion. There was no second, so.
You know, that we should get all the information back to us.
Okay, I move to suspend the license for a period of 60 days or until the board votes further action from today.
I'll second that.
I see town council
Yeah,
has a little...
I'm kind of scratching my
I wanna
head too.
Ask him first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. It's probably best if you're going to go the suspension route, to have a set penalty rather than something that's potentially indefinite. And a motion such as, and I'm just throwing this out there for form, I move to suspend for a period of X number of days to commence. I think you should provide a certain grace period before the commencement of 2 or 3 days, just to wrap up anything that's pending. The suspension to begin at the end of the grace period, and that at the end of the grace period, on a date certain, that the gentleman come back before you with evidence of compliance of either building repair, satisfactory to the inspectional officials, or a new premises, or a revocation hearing.
I just have one question, sir, may I? If he doesn't meet the what-ifs, can the motion be, if he does not meet the what-ifs, the license is revoked?
I'm only speaking from experience of handling appeals of different licensing matters. And in my experience, the regulatory agencies that supervise licenses, the Superior Court, tends to frown on self-executing revocations. The courts want to see a vote and a statement of reasons that attach. And were the gentleman, by whatever date that you might choose to establish, unable to fulfill the conditions, then at that time it would be appropriate to hold a hearing. A motion such as I move to revoke the license for failure to meet conditions A, B, and C, seconded, all in favor, aye. Done. That's the form.
Okay, so what you're saying is a suspension, then revocation is a two-step, two-hearing process.
I recommend it.
May I address the board, please, if that's
Mr.
possible?
Chair.
No, you can't.
No, not at this point.
Well, I think
Mr.
the board's in violation of everything here.
Yeah.
That's one point.
And here's where my comments were. They weren't really directed at anybody. What I was trying to do I don't really care whether he stays in business or not. I really do care because I've been on this junk beat now for months. What I was trying to do was get the town of Wareham's license away from this man because he truly has acted like he doesn't deserve to own it. I'm not trying to shut him down. We removed that license today. He stays open tomorrow, just like all the other 60 or 70 businesses in town that we've acknowledged exist in his business, and we don't require them to have a license. I mean, am I the only one that sees that?
The board is definitely wrong.
All these other businesses are open without a license. I was trying to get our license back from somebody who doesn't deserve it. That's what I was trying to do. I don't care about his building. That's up to somebody else. According to Peter, that's not even noticeable to him because he wasn't told about the roof. But yet, we're going to make him, you're going to suspend his license till he gets a building with a different roof or gets the roof fixed, something that he wasn't even noticed about? That doesn't make any sense to me. I'm just going by what I heard here tonight. I see some folks smiling, so I think I'm on the right track here. So you're going to suspend the license for a reason that's not part of the hearing, or that we were supposed to forget. And all I'm trying to do is save us our license from being in the hands of people like this in an unsafe building. I never mentioned closing his business down. Because in this town, it's not an option right now. Because all these other people, even though we keep telling them there's no amnesty. We all know they're all out there open today. And it would be unfair, really, to this gentleman to say, hey, we're taking your license closed down. Because we've allowed all the others to stay open. All I wanted was to get our license back from somebody who has not adhered to the rules and regulations that the 5 of us set. That's what I was trying to do.
Anyone else? So I need a motion. Oh, good.
Mr. Bowen, on this particular issue on the license, if we're suspending it, we're holding the license at this point, correct?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, through you, the gentleman
No,
would
no,
have
no one
to
does, right?
cease business, turn in the license to Ms. Oldfield, and it would sit in a drawer in the selectman's office.
Another question, just so the public understands. We have businesses out there, probably even the guy next door, who has stuff all over the place outside, by the way, that are operating with what we don't know whether it's a faulty or correct junk license situation, that have no junk licenses. We do have the ability, I imagine, that individually, at any time, we can go at any one of these businesses, and where they don't have a proper license, can we tell them they have to close down anyways?
We can.
Well, with your permission, Mr.
Yeah.
Chairman, I'm going to speak only in the most general of terms, because
Understand?
this is a matter that I've discussed with Mr. Moore, with Mr. Ethier, the town administrator. And the way the junk statute is written, at the end of the day, anything that is secondhand in nature is junk. And I know I'm repeating myself, and I apologize, but if you're selling or collecting anything that's secondhand, you're dealing in junk. You need a license under Section 54 in the bylaw. That's just the way the law is written. If people are out there selling secondhand goods, then they need a license. Now, whether that requirement gets enforced, that's not up to me, but is it enforceable? The answer is yes. And how is it enforceable? Well, to the hypothetical person who runs a permanent yard sale on their property, I'm speaking only in hypothetical terms. If they're operating in a residential district and they're selling stuff every weekend in a residential district, then they're running a retail business, an unlicensed retail business without a junk license in a residential district. That's something that can be enforced through the zoning bylaws. If they're collecting junk without a license, and this is a matter that I've discussed with the chief of police, they can be cited for a criminal violation. They can go visit district court, say hello to Mr. Manchester, the clerk magistrate, and then maybe on to see the justice sitting in second session. If you're selling secondhand things without a license, the town may, but is not required to, under the discretionary function exemption under the Mass Tort Claims Act, Section 10A of the Mass Tort Claims Act, the town may enforce. And the weapons to enforce are numerous.
Yeah, what's that, Alan? You wanna say
No.
something else?
Obviously, all of us should be upset that we're actually have the gentleman here in front of us, because it shouldn't have happened, number one. But I'm not gonna let personality issues or anything else get involved with what we do, at least from my point. I have a problem with the way it's all gone down. I have a problem coming back and whether things will change or not. But the bottom line is that we have two inspectors, basically, that say everything is complied with, everything is there. The third one says basically the things that haven't complied with really is out of the gentleman's hands because he doesn't own the property. It is commercial, someone has to fix it. That issue can be taken care of. The issue that can't be taken care of is the disregard for things happening, because we have the same issue at another location, which we can't really take into our discussion. I don't have a problem suspending it because the license comes back to us, and I'm not sure when it comes time to renew it, whether I'll vote to renew it and not to revoke it. Because I'll have to feel confident that nothing would happen again, because I don't want to go through this again. The issue that I want to bring out is that I'd like our chairman sometime in the next month at the most, put on an issue, basically an agenda item. It's not just this thing, but we have, and I don't want to waste people's time, we have all kinds of different rules and regulations we have in the building department, everywhere, trades, everything. I mean, there's a huge business on Saturday and Sunday in this town that doesn't get licensed. There's businesses everywhere running that aren't licensed. There are rules, whether it's signed bylaws, and just go right down the list that aren't being done. People go out there, well, the worst thing that happens is they'll slap my hands, maybe they'll get a $100 fine. If I cut down a bunch of trees to get a nice view of the water on my property, maybe they'll fine me, maybe they'll make me put a tree back, maybe they won't. we have a serious issue in this town of not enforcing things. So people think they can do whatever they want.
Well,
And let me
Mr.
just
Slavin,
finish.
you're actually proving my point right now.
I know I am.
You're voting on the wrong motion.
I understand,
That's what we're trying to stop here.
but I think we need to sit there.
Let me go, Mr. Chairman. Here we go again.
Let me finish,
So-
please.
Okay, I apologize for that.
It's
but I just want
okay.
to say that you're actually
I know,
proving my point.
I know I am.
So you're going to vote the other way. It doesn't make any sense.
I understand. All I'm trying to get is, I think we need to sit down and look at everything that's in front of us and start to say, we need to enforce our rules and regulations, because basically, Mr. Moore goes out and looks at the signs and stuff, pulls stuff down, looks at things, tells people to move them, comes back a month later, nothing's done. He does have enforcement powers. I know my wife's on the Conservation Commission. I laugh at her every time when she tells me they cite someone, and the answer is, oh, we fine them $100, or we let them go and tell them to do something. It's a joke. At the end of the day, this is all a joke right now. I know if I could vote to pull his license, you know, it would send a message basically, but by suspending it, it pulls the same message. You're out of business for right now. We need to fix this. It's a serious problem. Yes, he can be open tomorrow. But
Well,
if he
we'll
is,
talk about
then, but the bottom line is, Steve, we've already heard from Mr. Moore that he would not have an occupancy license. We can close him down immediately if he's open.
We can send the police down and close them down.
We
Exactly.
can close him down. Well,
Okay.
Well, in this instance,
Could we
I think
get-
you might be surprised.
All right, whoa.
Stupid law in that he's going to encourage the police chief
All right.
not to enforce the law.
Okay, hold on. Let's get
record
back to
right
basics
here.
here. We need to have a motion, please. Somebody make me a motion.
I thought we had one.
I'll make another motion to rescind.
Second.
I think we already voted that.
It's the same motion, and I...
All right, excuse me, I'll rephrase the motion. I move that we revoke the license effective May 5th. Period.
Second.
All right, motion made by Ms. Whiteside, seconded by Mr. Holmes. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I was going to
No.
ask the question.
I
Sorry.
guess that's that.
Again, Mr. Bowen, I'm sorry to keep going on this. If we vote on May 5th to revoke the license,
No, as of May
No,
5th.
As of May
it's
5th.
already being revoked as of May 5th.
so that's the end of that.
Right.
It's just a straight revoking, and that's it.
Right.
It's putting off the revocation from tonight to May 5th.
To give him the week to get his house in order.
All right, so again, motion's made and seconded. All in
That's
favor,
not
say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say aye.
Aye.
All right, so it's 2-3-0. Now, somebody make me a motion, please.
I move that we suspend the license for a period of 45 days, only to be reinstated upon receipt of, trying to couch the reports that I'd want to get from, can you help me with that, counsel? Only upon receipt of,
Maybe you could just suspend the license indefinitely.
I'll vote for that. That way, if it comes,
Well,
if it,
Effective
council might have something to say about that.
Effective when? Peter?
would be effective
I think-
immediately.
I think I'm not sure, but I think the court would frown on not a deadline on a suspension.
We're trying to
'Cause
issue.
that's basically a revocation.
We're trying to give them an opportunity to cure here, and usually you do that with a deadline.
Yeah, you gotta have a deadline. Go ahead. Town council.
Just running with the 45-day concept that was mentioned. You'll likely have a meeting on Tuesday, the 16th of June.
June 16th, yep.
Yes.
So, taking your motion and maybe just recasting it a little bit, I move to suspend the license until Tuesday, June 16th, at which time the Board of Selectmen will hold a hearing to consider revoking such license unless favorable reports are delivered by inspectional services, Board of Health, and Onset Fire.
Why can't we just leave it, at which time we will consider
How-
revoking?
However you would like it.
I would suggest I don't think we want to wait until June 16th for him to get this done. That's
if
the
he
only
comes
problem
in-
with that. You're basically saying you're out until June 16th. The encouragement here is to get the repairs done.
Like, yes, tomorrow, like right away. So if he makes them, if he
Gave him
makes
May
the
5th.
date sort of, you know, as soon as, when he gets that information, then we could put it on the earliest possible meeting.
And that's the flexibility I'd like in the motion, if we could.
Well, with your permission, Mr. Chairman, I was just going to say that you could, you can vote it however you want it, and really, there's not going to be absent a few things, not going to be a right or wrong. But certainly, if you came up with a hard deadline and set a hearing date, you know, if the gentleman came forward with favorable inspection
We could
reports,
come early.
you could entertain doing something different. So, you know,
Yeah,
you
okay.
kind of have the key to your own cell on that one.
Yeah, okay. So that's okay, Peter.
So moved.
So he's
could you please
suspended until
Repeat
June
the motion,
16th.
please.
Could you can you restate the motion, please? Sorry.
Not to be a wise guy, I'm not sure I could, but,
Well, that's the point.
Neither could I.
yeah, I'll try. I move to suspend the license until June 16th, 2015, at such time, and on June 16, 2015, at 7:15 PM in the Multi-Service Center Room, whatever this is.
320.
320. Further, that the Board of Selectmen will hold a revocation hearing to see whether there are favorable reports forthcoming from inspectional services, the Board of Health, and Onset Fire as to the condition of the property, or in the alternative, that the gentleman has secured suitable new premises.
What's the beginning of the revocation, sir?
Suspension is effective immediately.
I would
Suspension.
make,
Move to suspend immediately.
Okay, that's fine. All right, so that's your motion, Peter?
Yes.
Okay.
Second.
Second, I got, okay. Now I have a motion by Mr. Titlebaum, seconded by Mr. Slavin. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. Abstention?
I'm actually going to vote for it, but,
You got lucky, pal.
but,
He doesn't have to close.
410.
no, he does.
Yes. Hold on.
Revocation, suspension,
Let me,
suspension immediately.
okay. All right, so
Am
we
I
got
right?
the vote is 410. Okay, everybody, hold on 1 second. Okay, so the vote's 410, okay?
Correct.
So you have until June 16th to the hearing, to come here, and sometime, maybe even in between, you have to come up with a new place, a place that's workable, a place that doesn't have mattresses and stuff strewn all over it, that you have aisles that are proper, that you have met all the criteria of these gentlemen standing there. And a matter of fact, I'll probably want to go down there and take a look at it myself even. And let me tell you something,
Yes.
Mr. Lewis.
Go ahead.
You don't know how close you just came to losing this license for the rest of your life.
And I appreciate what's
Okay.
going on.
Because frankly, Mr. Holmes is right about one thing, okay? You did thumb your nose at this board, and this board is just giving you a major break. Because when those gentlemen came out, you should have immediately taken care of those things. I shouldn't have drove by there 2 days later, and there's still junk outside that building.
Okay.
Shouldn't have been,
All right?
okay? It shouldn't have happened. No. Okay, but and I'm gonna tell you something else. If I find, and if the police department finds you working in there, they will shut you down.
At this point, okay.
He is shut down.
Yes.
Board, I think the
Let-
board owes our department heads here in this fire
Right.
an apology for going out and doing their job.
I don't know why I'd apologize for
Go
them
ahead.
doing their job. I think they're grateful that we had them in
Hold
here to
on.
hear what they had to say.
Hold on, Alan?
I would ask
It's ridiculous.
our chairman to ask through the town administrator that we ask the direction of inspectional services to go ahead with the occupancy and the place not being suitable, to go ahead and close the building down for retail use. Basically put it, whatever has to be done to close it, so it can't be used during this time frame
if,
until the
with-
building is brought
with
up to
permission,
suitable
Chair.
standards anyways.
Go ahead, Mr.
If Mr. Moore, in the independent exercise of his judgment, finds that it be appropriate to do so.
Based on what he testified here today.
Right, whatever, Mr. Moore, it's in your hands as far as that goes. And all of you gentlemen, please, it can't, you gotta make it, it's gotta be right. It's gotta be that you guys wanted to walk in that building and feel comfortable about being in there, and I know that's how you want it. So, let's get it that way. Okay? All right, thank you, Mr. Lewis.
May I ask
No.
one question?
What's your question?
I
I'll
was
let
in
you know.
front of this board the last time, and I asked if I can remove my license from one location to another, and the board said, absolutely not, it has to stay with the building. That was the last time I was at this meeting.
Did we just tell you what you could do? We just gave you in the motion that you could find better premises that's suitable to us
Thank you.
on that day.
Thank
And I would suggest that you don't wait to that day to find out if they're suitable, or at least
I-
get something to us.
I will
at
get it
some point.
immediately.
And/or get this building up to snuff, one of the two. You have your
Okay.
choices.
And I
It's in the
appreciate it.
motion, it's quite clear. If you want to come to the selectman's office tomorrow, we can give you a copy of what the motion was, and you can follow it accordingly,
And
okay?
I appreciate
right,
all
thank
the
you.
time and effort that we put
All
into
right,
this.
thank you. It's getting late, and I
Thank
gotta
you,
move on.
gentlemen.
Thank you
And
so
lady.
much. Tie and bond, please. Guy, tie and bond.
Mr. Chair, we do have one quick item for a.
What do you got?
liquor-
Hold on,
liquor
hold on, what?
license. For a liquor license.
Okay, I was gonna save that for the end, but okay. Is there somebody here for it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, all right. All right, never mind. Come on down. The license.
entertainment.
Let's do the liquor license.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members
Yeah.
of the board.
Okay.
We have, the Congregational Church
Yeah.
on Gibbs has an application before the board for a one-day permit to sell alcohol at their concert this Saturday. Serving hours are 6 to 11. They expect about 150 people. And I do have to apologize. My name is Tony Jeffrey, and I'm with Professional Bartending Service.
Okay.
And we'll be overseeing the dispensing of the beverages for that function.
Okay. Any questions of the board?
No.
None.
Could I have a motion, please?
Mrs. Whiteside, you want to read it? If not, I can read it for you.
I got it.
Thank you, dear.
Move that the town of Wareham grant a special license for the sale of all alcoholic beverages to be drunk on the premises under Chapter 138, Section 14 of the Liquor Control
Right.
Act to First Congregational Church of Wareham, 11 Gibbs Avenue, 11 Gibbs Avenue, Wareham, Mass. 02571 for Saturday, May 2nd, 2015, from 6 p.m. to 11 p.m. The event will be held in the Roland Thatcher Hall at 11 Gibbs Avenue, Wareham, Mass.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right, motion made by Ms. Whiteside, seconded by Mr. Slavin. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, it's unanimous.
Thank you, Mr.
I
Chairman.
just have one question for you, sir.
Sure.
Are you an Inc., a corporation, or what are you?
The beverage catering business is incorporated in Massachusetts.
But the
No, but the
to
license is
Congress.
being granted to the church, so.
The church is probably a
I'm sure they're a
501c3.
501c3,
The church is a
very
501.
correct.
Yeah, so.
Well,
they
you know
wouldn't-
what? Here's the point.
They wouldn't have any,
This is a legal document. On a legal document, you have the legal and correct name of the applicant.
It's right here. It's Pro Bartending Service LLC in the insurance policy.
yeah, as far as the
No,
insurance goes.
that's the insurance.
But Gibbs, the church is,
No, actually, the
First
bartending,
Professional Church.
the bartending, we're giving the license, aren't we, to the bartending service?
No,
no, we gave it to the church.
To the church.
You
Okay.
give it to the
Yeah.
church,
He's
subject to
just
them hiring a
overseeing it.
bartending
Correct.
service
Yeah.
with
Yeah,
the
they're hiring
proper
the bartending
insurance.
service.
Right.
Okay,
So it's in order. It's just,
all right.
I know.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
aye.
Opposed, abstaining, it's unanimous, 500. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, can I have tie and bond up
pick it
here,
up
please?
tomorrow in the.
Sorry we had to do
Selectmen's
this
Hall.
last minute, but
Sorry.
it's a good thing I called.
Sorry we
Thank you.
held you up, but
No, perfectly okay.
come on down.
Can
I
you
will
sign
do that
all of that,
tomorrow.
please, and get it back?
Okay, good enough.
I gave it to them this time. All right, so what do you got for us?
Three places.
Something good, I hope.
I have, in your packets and copies herewith,
Could you give us the copies, please?
Yes, he did.
I don't have one in mine. I don't have one in mine, so.
Yeah, they did. Yes.
That's not in our packet, I'm telling you. Wasn't in mine.
There was a,
If you brought copies, and that's fine, so.
there was some kind of problem with the email system in the town, whereas the emails, they just, nothing, usually I get a file very, very quickly.
Everybody's packet.
It wasn't mine.
I got an extra one if anybody needs it. May 1st.
What's today's date?
May 28th. Actually, it's April 28th.
In 2 days.
2 days, they take over. Maybe.
Always forget those.
Good evening, Dr. Poop.
All right, so why don't you tell us what you came up with?
Okay, so my understanding from the town administrator was that the board wanted tonight to have something to vote on relative to the implementation of the
Water rates.
modified.
Call it the water rate system.
Yeah, a consumption-based system. In, discussions with the working group, there was sort of the concept that you can't approve, you can't vote on a theory. So what my intention would be, or was with drafting this, was to outline the methodology that went into, or that would go into the new sewer rate policy, and yet not
Define the numbers and so
yeah,
on.
exactly. It would give you enough.
So it's
you
a
could say-
framework
It's a
as far
framework.
as what we're going to, and now we just got to plug into
Right.
it.
And, my thought was that you would do it similar to a bylaw, and council's left. But that, you could still make changes under your other powers, or the powers of the sewer commission, so they can still affect rates on a year-by-year basis.
Yes.
This wouldn't,
Yeah.
you don't want to lock that in there, so,
They need to have those authority.
and what this does is it describes the methodology behind how the sewer rates will be, or sewer bills will be calculated, when they will be billed. There is at least one embedded question in here, and, there's a number of policy type decisions that will need to be made that haven't had to be made because they didn't exist, because people didn't use water meters. So the biggest one is deduct meters, disputes and abatements. This was my, a draft, basically, going forward, that at least give you enough to say, yeah, that's what I understood that this was gonna be, and yet still let the sewer commission deal with the details.
Right. I
That
think
was my
that's exactly
case.
what we were looking for. Exactly the framework or the guidelines of how we wanted to move from one rate to the other.
Right.
And that the new sewer commissioners can have the way to plug into this.
Right.
They'll be able to determine the differences between flow amounts,
Right.
what kind of flow is gonna be charged at what rate, whether the commercial rate's gonna be different than the residential rate. Whatever they decide to do, that's gonna be in their purview. But in the meantime, I wanted to give them a framework that everybody's been crying and clamoring about to
Correct.
get this underway. And if we don't give them some framework and say, well, this is how we wanted it, and this is how the people want it, because this is a fact, this is how the people want this, then I think it would be wrong of us.
I just wanna say too, Mr. Tropiano,
What?
that
Mr. Chairman, you're going quite far there, aren't you? Have we had a ballot question on this? How do you know what the people want? It might be your opinion, and I may even agree with you, but you're making some statements right now that I'm not sure are accurate.
Well, we're
I've
gonna,
had a lot of complaints about this.
well, first off,
So not everybody is in favor of this.
well, first off,
Process.
you can be quiet, okay?
No, I
Because-
addressed you.
Because I can say what I want to say, and then
Right.
you'll get the chance to say what you
And
want
I
to say.
just did.
And that's really it, okay?
Right.
When you get recognized, you can say it as well.
Right.
This is what I understand to be the truth. I don't speak for any member on this board ever, okay? And neither does anybody here speak for each other. We speak for ourselves. Now, that's my opinion, that's what I believe we asked you to do, and I believe that's what you've accomplished here. Now, it's up, does the board have any questions of the gentleman? Go ahead, Mr. Titlebaum.
I don't have any questions. I just wanted to say thank you. You've gotten us to the end of the road with this. You've gotten us to the end of our road. This is one of the things that I ran on, not once but twice, was to at least get this done, even after the rate-setting authority was removed from us by town meeting and then the state legislature. I still, as Chairman Tropiano just said, I felt it was important for this board to make the final policy statement in the form of this draft sewer policy. And again, the sewer commissioners are going to take a look at this. Frankly, they could vote to dismiss this at their first meeting. We hope that they don't. We hope that they'll look at it. We hope that they'll go through all of the work that was done to get to this point, to understand what the sort of blended rate means, that they will find that it's as fair a system as we can come up with, and certainly much more fair than the current EDU system. But I felt it was important before that authority went over that we at least have this opportunity to make this statement. And I know it's not unanimous that people want this, but I do think a clear majority do, and that's my opinion. Thank you.
Alan, you're next.
I think that tonight must be the night that I'm sitting in the middle trying to figure things out in life. The Charter 8-4, the time of taking effect, I have a couple questions. First question I have for the board itself. Are we adopting a policy, or are we providing a recommendation? What are we actually doing right now?
Well, I believe that we're adopting a policy, and this is the policy of how we do the sewer rates, just like we adopted the EDU rate. Now, Rich, is there any special requirements? I mean, I remember when we adopted the EDU rate, but I don't remember there being any other requirements other than the board to vote on them.
You mean like a hearing?
The EDU rate, when we did the EDU rate years ago.
Yep.
A long time ago.
Long time.
Yeah,
I'm going to ask you another question.
yeah,
Rich,
for
anyways.
an EDU rate, that might be one where you would hold a hearing, but for adopting a policy, generally, I don't think you require a hearing. And point of fact, on Friday, or whenever the new sewer commissioners convene, yeah, that would be Friday, yeah. Marilyn and the rest of the team could vote an entirely different policy, so.
Just to continue, if you read section 8-4, the time of taking effect, it's a little gray, unfortunately. It talks about basically the the Board of Selectmen, and now, once they're elected, the existing sewer commissioners will perform the duties of said office until the newly elected sewer commissioners are qualified. Qualified usually means taking oath of office. And then it basically talks about the April election. Then it says they shall take office May 1st of the election year. Problem is, I know at least one of the sewer commissioners has taken oath of office. Where does that put us? They have. They're qualified. It doesn't say they.
Rich, can you tone in on that a little bit for us?
Thank you.
I'm embarrassed to say I don't understand the question.
What I'm saying is, the way it's worded, it's a little vague. It says they start office May 1st,
Mm-hmm.
but it says when they're qualified. And if they take oath of office, at that point, they're qualified, even though they can't do anything, in theory.
Okay.
How does that affect us as the sewer commissioners? 'Cause
Yeah, it wouldn't. You're in place through midnight on Thursday. They can take the oath of office, but until May 1st, they're not invested with the power to act as sewer commissioners. I think that's the way. They may be sworn in. Say I took the oath. I was elected. I took the oath. Yes, I hold the seat, but until the statute says they're invested with the power that comes with holding the seat, then you hold that power, and that's going to be midnight Thursday.
I just want to make sure, because it does basically say that it uses the word, qualified, which I
Yeah.
think is probably a little misnomer.
Well, I think
We never had-
you're it till Thursday at midnight.
I wrote it, so I should know better.
Well, then ask yourself.
The problem is, when you read it, it makes me a little nervous. We've had enough issues with the sewer commissioners tonight.
Anyone else for
I
questions?
got something to say to finish.
Yep, go
I
ahead.
guess. First of all, I don't agree that everybody supports this policy. I happen to support it as an individual and as a selectman, but there are a lot of people who live in this town that don't support this policy. And why is it? I really question this whole process now because, I've been here 5 years. It's been discussed for many years. And why is it, less than 72 hours before a new board takes over, this board's going to vote on a policy matter? That doesn't make sense either. I could see that the board, voting to recommend this policy to the new Board of Sewer Commissioners. And they could certainly meet Friday and say, hey, the hell with that board. We don't care what they did. We're not going to enforce that policy anyway. So, basically, it's just a ceremonial vote is what you're doing. I prefer to make it real and just say, hey, we recommend to the new sewer commissioners, and this is what we recommend. Here's a policy that we're going to, yeah, you can shake your head now, but it means nothing on Friday after midnight if they vote on Friday to rescind this. So basically, you've done nothing. So I would, I'd make it as a recommendation to them, Patrick, but I wouldn't.
Okay.
I wouldn't put it into policy, and apparently there is still some questions on this.
Mr.
So
Titlebaum?
we don't have all the answers yet to this as being a policy.
All right, Mr. Titlebaum?
It's, we're almost down to splitting hairs here, but the reason to vote it in as a policy is, again, to reflect the work that went into getting it this far, the work that this Water Pollution Control Facility Director did, the work that various selectmen, including yourself, Selectman Holmes, did when you were chairman and you started the ball rolling on these questions. And if they so decide, and again, as you say, they meet next week, they could say, yeah, that's nice. We don't want to do this. We're going to stick with the EDU for a while, or we're going to put the policy in abeyance until we can figure out what to do with it. They can do whatever they want, but this, I think, is the final opportunity for this board to say that this is the fairest measure we could come up with, that our consultant came up with which to bill you for sewer services. And that's, I think, an important statement to make.
Mrs. Whiteside?
I noticed that we've been talking about this for several years with yourself. You've come back and you've done several presentations, yourself and others. My memory is that only 2 of the people who are going to be taking office on May 1st attended any of the meetings that were in this room. I don't know about any other meetings that you may have had in presentations to other bodies, politic. Based on my observation, I think that it's incumbent upon the people who've been sitting here for however long we've been sitting here and listening and going through the figures with you and getting, going through the arguments back and forth, to, in fact, adopt this as a policy. I get it that it's a 72-hour policy in some respects. I also get that it has been worked really hard by your staff, by Mr. Campina's staff, who've had to create bundles of information, and that a reasonable decision was based on the facts as presented by you, based on the facts created and given to you by the town or the town employees. So my cut at this would be to give some guidance to the people who don't have policy books. I don't know where these sewer commissioners stand, these about-to-be sewer commissioners stand. I know that many of them are lacking any sort of helpful paperwork or documents or, all of this. I'm not being critical of them. It just hasn't been handed over to them. how are they supposed to make a decision if they have to spend, the pile I'm handing over is this thick? It's not a question. It's my statement that I think that we should adopt this as a policy.
Mr. Titlebaum?
And earlier, I thanked the Water Pollution Control Facility Director, but I was remiss in not thanking our town administrator and especially our finance director, who put in a ton of work to come up with numbers so that we could essentially have a grasp of what the status of the enterprise fund was, what other financial holdings of the sewer department, if you will, were, and to really be able to sink our teeth into this. There was a lot of work done by a lot of people on this in the town government, and I think they all deserve to be recognized, and I think adopting this policy is a way of doing that. Not only for ourselves to say that, you know, this is where we've gotten this to, but also in recognition of all the people who certainly did a lot more work on it than any of us did sitting here.
Anyone else?
Just a comment again, real quickly. At the end of the day, we promised the new sewer commissioners, at least now I did, that we wouldn't lock them into anything per se. This really isn't locking them into anything, it's just giving them an overall guideline which they have to fill. Unfortunately, everything in policies, all kinds of stuff, which is going to be wonderful. They'll be meeting probably twice a week instead of us meeting once a week.
Yeah.
And the bottom line really is, they're going to, I think, meeting on Saturday, go through the facility, and then they'll probably meet sometime next week and stuff. And if they feel like it, and if they read it and go through it in a week or two, they decide they don't like it, they'll be back with our friend Dr. Poop, coming up with a new... Professor Poop, Dr. Poop, it's all the same, it's all poop. You know, sitting there and coming up with a new guideline. So it doesn't really matter. If we want to go ahead and vote as a policy, you know, I'm not crazy about it, but at this point here, you know, it solidifies the work that a lot of us have done. I know I've put a lot of time into this over the last 4 years. Patrick's had put time in a lot of, et cetera. Steve has, you know, even longer than all of us. We all think that there should be some kind of a base plus usage. It's the only fair way, but that's our decision here with the 5 of us. At the end of the day, you know, you're going to have the stakeholders have to all buy in, and that's going to be through the new sewer commission. We'll have public hearings, and we'll have to figure it out. So I really don't have a problem doing it either way.
Anybody else?
Mr. Chairman, are we going to at least clean it up? If we're going to adopt a policy after all this work, I mean, for God's sakes, the least we can do is clean it up. There's no numbers in here. It's all X, 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 X,
Well,
H, 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 H. There's no decision made on deduct meters.
That's going to be.
I mean, at least
that's going to be them.
Going to be them.
we're setting a policy with no specifics.
Give them a guideline, overall guideline.
It's not a guideline, it's a policy.
I know.
It is.
Difference.
It's a policy that they're
Difference.
going to work on. It's going to take some time to work on.
From a board that people voted out as their sewer commissioners, and I was served on this board, so I know how that felt. Which lends me back to the point of not everybody's in favor of what we decide in terms of sewer. But this I could see a recommendation, Patrick, but we're setting a policy with no numbers, no guidelines, no limits, no nothing. At least if you could come to terms on the deduct meters and get that done and say, okay, it takes the question. You have a question in your policy that says, are you going to use it or are you not? That's not a policy.
Mr. Tropiano?
Yeah, at least clean it up before
Yeah.
you hand it over to somebody. No? Don't clean it up, just throw it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
okay.
honoring our work.
All right.
Very good.
I think for me, this goes back to 2000. When I tried to do this way back, trying to get this set up and get in place in the year 2000. That's 15 years ago. And, you know, I just feel that if I don't give some guideline and don't get this process more underway, more into the limelight, more into the field, and regardless of whether we're missing some stuff in here, I think that's the whole point. This is a guideline. It's a policy that says this is the structure we'd like to see, and then let them come in and tweak it, and let them come in and make the numbers and do the stuff and do the rest of the work. I just think that for all this time, to this day, to turn this over to somebody else, and at this point, 15 years later for me, we still don't have anybody actually saying that this is what we're gonna do, or this is the direction we're heading. And I think I just think it's wrong for me, anyway, me personally. And, as far as how I feel about what the town wants. And the people that talk to me. I mean, I know others have other people talk to them, and you get different points of view. I totally understand that. But this has been going on a long time, and I just want to see something in place. Go ahead, Peter.
Yeah, with regard to how, frankly, I think this will shake out, I think there's enough complexity left in the rate-setting process that the new sewer commissioners probably won't be able to set this type of a rate in terms of actually coming up with the numbers, even in time for the next annual billing cycle. I think you're not going to see this possibly until August of 2016 will be the first bills that go out. Perhaps they can get it done sooner. I don't know. But it's going to be a lot of work. You may be, as Selectman Slavin suggested, meeting a couple of times a week to do it, or having special workshop meetings on Saturdays, or whatever it takes. I suppose it's theoretically possible, but it's a heck of a lot of work. So that's one reason why you wouldn't see the numbers in here. The second reason is, one of the things that town meeting decided they wanted the new sewer commissioners to do was to set the rates. And if were we to go ahead and do that, and then try to hand it off 72 hours, I think that would be seen as a bit of a slap in the face to town meeting. This doesn't go against what town meeting decided to do. This gives the new sewer commissioners an opportunity and a framework to look at, to decide whether they want to stick with it. If they do, then it gives them the basic framework to start and go forward. And earlier on my thanking tour here, I forgot to mention the fire districts. Both the Onset and Wareham fire districts were instrumental in getting information to Professor Poop for him to analyze, and so that he could include the water usage issues and sort of get those down into this policy as well.
Guy, you want to say something? Come on down.
Just for my question. Thank you, Mr. Chair. The only question I have is, if we adopt as a policy, does that take the EDU policy and make it, or we keep an EDU policy for billing in the next cycle?
No, yeah. Well, until this is finished, until you finish you can't, you know what I mean? The EDU is going to have to remain in place.
Right, that's what I was asking, because if you make it a policy, we have an EDU policy, so does this policy supersede the EDU policy? That's all I'm asking.
No. The answer is no.
Thank you.
The answer is no. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Tropiano.
Yes.
It's a pending policy.
Mr. Holmes, in response to your comment on the embedded question, yeah, that was not my intent that would come to you this way. As we mentioned, there was some inexplicable issue where I thought emails, so I'm following up, hey, did you have a chance to read this? And I get, what email? So I also just wanted to say that, I'm willing to go through this now if you want to talk about things, you want to, get this to a point. I think, and I'm not going to suggest how you vote, but that, this was intended to be a draft policy that you could endorse as saying that this reflects your understanding and your work towards doing this. There's still a number of issues to be answered, including what actually do you finally, or the sewer commissioners finally, I wasn't sure if it was going to be a modification to the town bylaw or whether it was going to be a rule and regulation. So there's some questions there, but
I think we can fix it. I think we know what to do now.
In the interest of cleaning, you could just strike that italicized paragraph between numbers 3 and numbers 4, and it would have no impact. I wrote this in a way that would be self-regulated. I would encourage you all to take a minute to read it. If you have a question, I know you just got this now.
Seems to me that actually you should leave the italics because it sort of gives people a hint as to, oh, these are outside.
Right, but as a policy, to Mr. Holmes's point, it would not want to have someone coming against a policy where there was an option.
But if we make it a draft policy, then we don't have any issues. Okay, so that could solve that problem immediately.
Right, and there'll be no issues getting out,
Right.
getting the building
Exactly.
out with EDUs or anything like that.
Exactly.
It's just the draft.
So we'll make it a draft policy.
Draft proposed policy, no, draft policy.
Draft
Draft
policy.
policy.
So it's not overcomplicated.
Let's not make it any worse. All right, any other discussion? Go ahead, Peter.
No, I was just gonna make a motion if
Go
we're
ahead,
done.
make the motion.
I move that the Town of Wareham Board of Selectmen acting as sewer commissioners adopt the draft Wareham sewer billing policy as presented to us tonight.
Second.
And for the policy to be added into the record.
Okay, a motion made by Mr. Titlebaum, seconded by Mr. Slavin. Is there any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 500.
And I think I want to make sure that we are not liable for any therapy needs from gaining the moniker of Professor.
Yeah, I
Poop.
really think that's
Please,
totally.
call me Poopy. No,
Thank
and, you know,
I think
Mr.
the statute of
Titlebaum's,
limitations has run out. It's 3 years on torch,
Thank you
right,
very
Rich?
much.
I started over 3
I'm
years
sorry you had to
ago.
wait around so long.
No, and
It
I,
was quite
I
a,
enjoyed working with you all and getting to meet you, and I, had some interesting.
well, you're gonna have some good people to work with, so.
I
that'll be
agree.
fun.
Can I ask clarity? Is Mr. Sullivan not going to be part of the process moving forward? Well, how will they access council, et cetera?
He is not right this second, because that's how the thing was set up. The legislature is voting on a change that he will be back as part of it.
Monday.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, they're gonna vote on it Monday.
And we will need council guidance on proceeding at some point.
Yes, well, they'll have access to council.
Okay.
All of our boards do. All of our boards have access to council, right?
Yeah.
On their bill. Yeah, it's on their
Yeah.
bill. I mean, it's, but they'll have access.
Okay.
Obviously.
It's not a guy.
Right.
It's not a guy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're not
Yeah.
taking on any new business.
No, not
Not
really.
for free.
Well, not for that either. I was just, with your permission, Mr. Chairman, with respect to Mr. Sullivan's involvement, per the charter, Mr. Sullivan still maintains personnel control and is responsible for negotiating collective bargaining agreements, and just to make that clear. But as to setting rates and the manner of operating the plant and all that, that's with the new sewer commissioners. And so I know Marilyn and the rest of the crew will be deeply involved. They'll be in it up to their necks. How about that?
And if
Okay,
they ever
thank you.
ask for any questions,
I'm sorry to rush you, but we're running really late tonight.
Okay.
Okay, so we're gonna, next up is to vote on the Comcast contract, and obviously we don't have one. Go ahead, Peter.
We don't have one. Still trying to figure out with Comcast how much they're gonna contribute for running fiber optic to improve the quality of the broadcast. I don't know if anybody read the blogs today, but they were squawking about the quality of the picture and everything else from the town meeting last night. I didn't watch the replay yet, but,
It has to do with the equipment they use. Insufficient equipment.
well, equipment, lighting, whatever, but we all know that even in the most ideal studio for meetings, which is this one, the broadcast quality diminishes as it travels over the coax cable to be broadcast. So we're still working on that, so at this point, we need to vote a second preliminary denial, and I'm moving to, we vote a second preliminary denial and additional 30-day extension.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Mr. Titlebaum, seconded by Ms. Whiteside. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstaining, it's unanimous, 500.
On this thing with the WCTV cable, et cetera, I'd like, whether it's a regular meeting or executive session within the next month, to talk about long-term.
We'll have an executive session next Tuesday. We're going to plan on it, so if you're interested in doing it then, we can.
That would be good to do, just the board talk
We,
about it.
just for the board's edification, we will be having an executive session next Tuesday. At Mr. Bowen's request, I believe,
This would be for
to
contract
discuss pending
negotiations.
litigation.
This one, the other piece would be for potential contract negotiations.
Okay, so I'll post both of them, contracts and litigation. Okay? All right, good. Next up, I have the sewer abatement. You want to come down, Guy, for this? This is the one from Meineke. Now, if you remember right, last billing cycle, we abated this bill. He had gotten, his bill went from, I don't know what it was, 18,000 something dollars to $4,857 for his 2 bathrooms. And we abated it the last time, to $26.93, and that's what's on here again, the same number, the $26.93. I gave you all, everybody copies. Did you get one, guy? They supposed to, I told Shirley to make sure you got
I
it.
got a copy,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. And then the second part of that is we send him all the abatement request forms.
Yeah.
That include his, so we mailed that to him. We haven't received it back yet, which includes everything, because there's a process, and the board can act as they choose, but there's a process. So what happens is that they send a letter to the sewer, to the sewer department requesting abatement. What we do is, at that point, we send them a packet, and it has an abatement, town official abatement request form, and all the supporting documents. They send that back in, and then it's reviewed to make sure the policies, and then it's sent over to the selectmen to be put on the agenda. I'm still waiting for the return of that to go on the agenda. So that's where I am with it.
Then I move that we table it because it's not a complete application.
Well, let me say something about that first, if I might. I think it was our intentions the last time that this actually be changed. Unfortunately, we didn't change the way we do it. So it ended up coming again. But I think everybody was in favor. As a matter of fact, I believe the board voted 5-0-0 to abate this to this amount of money. I don't see why we wouldn't do it now. Go ahead, Peter.
I'll be honest with you, this is my final opportunity to give the EDU system a kick in the teeth, so I'm happy to abate it. It's a bad system. I'm glad we took the first steps to getting rid of it tonight.
Anybody else have anything to say?
And what was this on?
This is Meineke's.
Oh,
we-
again,
Yeah, the same one. We've voted it before. I gave you one. It's in your packet.
I know I've never voted in favor of that, so.
Well, you did the last time. It was 5-0-0 because I looked up the vote, and I also looked up the exact number, which was 2693.
I doubt that I wouldn't have voted for that. But maybe I
No.
was here before.
So could I have a motion, please?
I made a motion. Nobody seconded it.
Second, your motion was to
Deny.
deny or
Was
postpone?
to deny,
To table, wasn't it?
to table, pending the documentation receipt.
Yeah, I'm not willing to table, so maybe you can get a second somewhere else.
All right. So go ahead, make a motion then, Peter.
Move to approve application for abatement from Meineke, 3125 Cranberry Highway, East Wareham. Amount to be abated, $2,693.
Right, that's the right amount. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Motion made by Mr. Titlebaum, seconded by Mr. Slavin. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
All right, so it's 3-2-0. Okay. All right, any other business to come before us this evening?
I think we should stand up and give Guy a round of applause for putting up with us all these years.
Mr. Titlebaum, yes, absolutely. In fact, you had to put up with us for a long time.
I appreciate it. It really has been an honor, and I say that seriously. Because, it doesn't mean that everybody agrees all the time, but reasonable people come to reasonable conclusions, and that's what I think we've done. Derek, I continue to look forward to working with you, and thank you for all your advice, guidance. I mean that sincerely. So thank the board. Thank you guys.
Thank you very much, guys.
You'll still be
Thank
working
you.
with Derek, don't worry about it.
Absolutely. I look forward to it.
We'll still come and throw stuff at you once in a while.
Yeah.
All right, so, has anybody got anything, Mr. Sullivan, do you have anything you want to bring up this evening? No?
No, I just want to thank everybody, the department heads, moderator, this board, and everybody that worked to make town meeting work last night. I appreciate all the efforts.
Very nice job.
Including the residents that came and voted and everybody that watched it. So thank you very much for all your time. Appreciate it.
I'll tell you, everybody put in a tremendous amount of work to get us there. And I have to say that I don't think I've seen maybe 3 town meetings in all the years I've been going to town meeting, and it's been a long, long time, that we've actually got through in one night. And that just goes to the preparation from everyone, the finance committee, yourself, this board, everybody who put in time, and there was lots of them, your finance team, everybody who put that together, and I was pleased as punch when it was 9:45 and I was making a motion to dissolve the warrant. That was the best motion I ever got to make, I think, to dissolve that warrant. The meeting, yeah, the best motion at that meeting I've done that, and that's just awesome. So I thank you all so much from this side. It's It's really unbelievable. Okay, Mr. Titlebaum, you have something we need to talk about, right?
Yeah, we do. First, though, I'd like, for the people who weren't at town meeting last night and haven't heard about it, a junk study committee was formed by town meeting, and applications for it are available in the selectman's office or online on the town website.
You know, we actually got an email already for somebody who wants to,
Yeah.
Actually got three, we have three.
yeah.
I got another one late in the afternoon.
There's one, a guy pretty qualified actually in the junk.
And there's a woman from Bourne that runs, actually stores in the
I
antique
was
business.
shocked. I was like, wow, that's great.
Yeah, people want to look into this. It's an interesting issue.
Yeah, she's,
Um, I do have something. I'd like to request a brief executive session to deal with a matter that came up in the last 24 hours. This would be for reason number 3, either the negotiation of contracts or litigation.
Rich, is that a problem?
Hypothetically, no. What, for tonight?
Yeah.
Oh.
I think it's sort of an emergency situation as I understand it.
Could I find out what it is?
Yes, you can. Yeah, let's go. In the meantime, we'll just
know what that is, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, well, nobody does actually at this point.
of you.
You'll find out in a few minutes.
no idea what's going on.
Huh?
I
I
have
got
no
a
idea.
call at, I got a call at about 4:30 about this particular issue, so.
While you're doing that,
Yeah, you got something?
yeah, I met with Tom Cahere at Cape Cod RTA, which oversees the Cape Flyer. Cape Flyer will be running again as usual. They've added a Brockton stop to the Cape Flyer coming down. They're going to work a partnership with the Cape Cod Baseball League for programming. They're also, I gave them the address of the triathlon, Tim Richards, about working some kind of program where people could come down for the triathlon by train on Friday, participate, and then go home by train.
Next week, no problem? Okay, good.
Okay, as we're going along. So hopefully we'll get more participants for the triathlon. The schedule starts a little later on Saturday and Sunday. Starts at South Station at 5:50, gets to Wareham at 7:05, leaves Hyannis at 9 p.m. The Friday Cape Flyer was a little iffy at times because they were sharing the train coming down through Lakeville with other MBTA. They've actually given them their own dedicated train, so it'll make the service a lot quicker and a lot more stabilized. They're looking to do more things with us to try and develop more traffic in and out of Wareham.
Okay, announcements wasn't on the agenda, but let's, we have Bob's Coffee Hour, right? We should make that announcement. Does anybody else have anything else? How about you, Mr. Titlebaum? Do you have anything you want to say for announcements? We might as well do this anyway. There's no rule about announcements.
No.
No decisions. No, it's easy as pie.
Bob's probably got his head so
Bob?
asleep.
Who's your guest?
Talk about jewelry industry, that's right.
Tomorrow at the Agawam Community Center, Thursday, I'm so confused about what day it is. Mel Lazarus will
It's
be
Tuesday.
addressing, I'm sorry?
Tuesday.
It must be Paris. Mel was a guest before and actually is being recalled because he was so interesting. On Thursday, May 28th, from 5 to 7 p.m., the Wareham Council of Aging is having a spaghetti dinner, which is hosted by the Tremont Rehabilitation and Skilled Care Center and Hospice of Massachusetts. Tickets are $5 for grown-ups and $2 for children. Spaghetti supper, door prizes, and a Samsung Galaxy tablet to be raffled off. So, nice way to help seniors.
Is that it? Mr. Slavin, you have something?
Yes, Atlantic Marine, which has two locations, one on Cranberry Highway, the other one at the Stonebridge Marina, is having their annual open house this coming Saturday. If you go down to Stonebridge Marina, there'll be boat rides. Hopefully you'll buy something. There'll be special pricing on boating. There'll also be free food. Mr. Holmes, I believe they're having hot dogs. It'll be good. Atlantic boats. And at the facility on Cranberry Highway, there'll be sales on all their parts, accessories. There'll be displays, I think, at both locations from different marine companies as well. So actually, it's a nice, fun time.
The 2nd or the 9th? What was the date?
Saturday, I think it's the 2nd.
2nd.
Yeah. That's it for me.
Okay, Mr. Holmes, do you have anything?
Yeah, listen, based on Monday night, or actually, yeah, Monday night, and based on the actions of the board tonight, I will no longer be participating as your junk czar, since you neither respect the work we did, or I've spent a lot of time on this, only to not be taken seriously by this group. Thank you, Mrs. Whiteside, I appreciate your support. And I told you in the beginning, I didn't mind giving you the time, I didn't mind putting in the hours, and as soon as you weren't gonna back me up, I was done. So I'm not gonna do the junk thing anymore. We have a town group, and they can do whatever they want with the junk, and we'll see what happens in October. But I'm not gonna give any more reports on junk, and I'm not gonna go out there and, because nobody's interested in these businesses running without proper credentials. So, that's what I'm gonna do.
I feel bad that you feel that way.
It's real, Patrick.
Sometimes,
You were here tonight, too.
I know, but
It had
some,
nothing to do with
but-
the building, it had everything to do with the license, and you people didn't care.
well, but, you know, sometimes the board doesn't see everything your way, and sometimes they do see it your way. I'm the same, I'm a victim of that, like everybody else here. We've all
I
been,
understand that, but I'm not gonna waste my time.
and I just feel bad because I think you're doing a great job at it. And I just think it's too bad that you feel that way. I would prefer you stay and do it because you're doing a good job. And it isn't that we don't back you, it's just in this particular case, you know, we
I
had,
violated
the
our-
board had
our
an
license.
issue. I understand, and I
We
understand
still
how you
went
feel
people's
as well.
license,
I
Patrick.
totally understand your feelings, and
That's your
I just
opinion, Mr.
feel bad.
You're entitled to that opinion.
Go ahead, Mr. Sullivan.
Mr. Chairman, I just would be remiss if we did not remind everybody of the Wareham Oyster Festival, Sunday, May 3rd, 11 a.m. to 5 p.m.
Go ahead. Forgot all about it, sorry.
On Main Street between Center and Sawyer Streets. Admission is free. Join us as we celebrate our briny bivalve and more. More than a dozen carefully selected crafters and artisans, music, and all kinds of food. Enjoy oysters from Wareham, as well as the Cape, Cuttyhunk, and Rhode Island. And the music, artisanal. I know you like art.
Artisanal. Can you spell it?
And the
Can you use it
music
in a
of the South
sentence?
Coast Jazz Orchestra and others. Please go to warehamvillage.org for additional details. There is a Oyster Festival 5K. I'm trying to come down, but not for the 5K, obviously.
We know you're not doing that on Sunday. Just,
But it should be an amazing event.
yeah, just
Alan
so,
has one more thing.
yeah, I apologize, I forgot all about this, they'll probably kill me. There'll be an event at Lindsay's on tomorrow night, actually, at 7 PM. They'll have oysters and stuff also. I think if you registered ahead of time, you get a cup of their famous lobster bisque. Also, on the 29th, they are going to have a gala over, I think it's Rosebrook Event Center.
Yes.
And I believe that is going to be at 7 PM also. There'll be food and things there as well, obviously.
Oysters.
Well, there'll be more than just oysters for those people who may not like oysters, you know how that works. And then the Oyster Festival will be on the 3rd. They'll be doing things all along Main Street besides the 5K as well. So Mr. Sullivan can stop and have some food, too.
You know, I might as well mention, on the 30th, the hotel's going to have its official opening.
Yep.
And I will be there. I've been asked to attend. Any of the other selectmen that would like to attend, I'd love to have you. And, you know, for a good show of support and get them off to a good start would be a wonderful thing. And I don't know exactly the time yet, because they haven't given it to me. As soon as they give me the time, I'll make sure you all get it, okay?
Further thing,
All right, that's it?
on Thursday,
It's Thursday, yeah.
11 o'clock.
Oh, it's 11. How'd you get the time? They didn't give it to me.
I'm special.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Ms. Whiteside, seconded by Mr. Titlebaum. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining? Yes.
Would you tell me, did you put citizen participation back on the board?
Yes, it will be back on next week.
Oh,
It-
you didn't put it on this?
It wasn't on this week, no.
So it
Because we-
wasn't on that last?
It wasn't on the last couple of weeks. So last week it was left off in error. This week it was left off on purpose, because this was supposed to be a meeting before town meeting, and it ended up not to be because we finished town meeting, and we wouldn't have had enough time. So that's why we left it off this
No,
week.
I just wanted
But it will be back on, I promise you, Jerry, next week, okay?
Town Suites is 11.
Huh?
It's
11? Yeah. Geez, what'd you do, look it up on the site?
I got a invitation.
She sent me the thing, but she didn't give it to me.